Hey everybody, welcome back. These entitled Bridezillas gave me whiplash. Compilation.
Married people of Reddit, what is your honeymoon horror story? Not my current wife, but my former. We decided to take a cruise for our honeymoon. Cheap, travel, beach, possibly fun.
What's not to love?
I booked the trip for a few months after our wedding because that's kind of what worked best for us. Fast forward to then, she heads out for our departure port a day early to go hang with college friends. I leave later because I'm at work. I get to the port on departure date and she's nowhere to be found. She's not answering calls or texts. I start to get worried. I call her folks. They haven't heard from her. She's seemingly vanished. After a few hours of panic, I get a message from her. She's not going on our honeymoon. What in the hell? What in the actual hell is that? Turns out she's shacked up with a guy and we're done. Joke's on her, I went on the cruise anyway and had a frickin' fantastic time. We divorced very soon afterwards. She married that guy, had a kid, they split. She married another guy, haven't heard from her since. Me, I'm happily married now with 4 kids and things are going pretty great. Well, Funk Turkey, thank you for sharing. I'm glad that she, cheated before she went on an expensive honeymoon with you. Y'all would have just killed each other by the end. Also, being stuck on a cruise ship with someone like that, those cabins are pretty small. The toilets are aggressive as well. An estimated 53,000 people visit Disney World each day. No, they do not care that it's your honeymoon. I have friends honeymooning in Disney World now, and it's really disappointing to see them getting special treatment all over, and we got nothing special. It feels like they didn't care at all or even realize that we were honeymooners. Yeah, here's the thing. With that many people going to Disney World, I'm not sure it's of their utmost priority to make sure they give you special treatment. I think that they could probably be okay, on the advertising side without giving you special treatment. There's still going to be people that go to Disney World without you. Did you tell them that you were on your honeymoon? Did you book like a honeymoon suite? Generally speaking, if it is your honeymoon, cruise ships I know do nice things for you. They make the swan towels and stuff, the animal towels. But I don't think Disney World has any obligation to do that. You ruined my honeymoon. A little background. I was a travel agent in Orlando, Florida back in the 90s. For the most part, I loved my job. I worked in a travel agency where we sold a high percentage of cruises. We advertised all over the USA our special cruise prices that we were negotiating with cruise lines. Most of our business was over the phone and I very rarely had customers come into the travel agency. Anyways, I had this bride-to-be call and wanted this specific cruise line and this specific ship going to the Bahamas for a 4-day cruise. She knew what she wanted. The cruise was for her honeymoon. I booked airline tickets from Texas, sorry, can't remember what airport, to Orlando the next morning after the wedding, the cruise to the Bahamas, and after the cruise, a 3-night stay at a Disney hotel. Time passes and I send them their cruise documents and physical airline tickets. I normally didn't hear from customers if everything was fine. Well, the next day after the cruise, I get a couple coming roaring into my office and the bride is fit to be tied. Not knowing who she is, I'm taken aback by someone glaring at me. The following conversation takes place. Hi, what can I do for you? Angry bride.
You ruined my honeymoon.
I'm sorry? Let me look at your booking. I pull out all my notes from the initial call from months ago. I see that she gave me the wedding date, the cruise line she wanted, and the cruise ship she wanted going to the Bahamas. I go over everything with her and her now husband and ask her what went wrong.
The Bahamas was closed. All the shops were closed.
It was the 4th of July and everything was closed. I didn't do any shopping. The Bahamas was closed. Why did you let me book that cruise on the day the Bahamas would be closed? Sorry you weren't able to go shopping? More ranting and raving. Sometimes you need to let crazies vent, they finish and get up and go. Nope, not this one. I want a full refund of the airline tickets, cruise, and hotel. But you still went to the Bahamas. I'm thinking I want to be 6 foot and a great body, but that's not happening either. I can't refund your money. For 1, you flew here to Orlando. 2, you went on the cruise. 3, you're still staying at the hotel. Okay, so you went on a cruise ship. And when you were in the Bahamas off the cruise ship, things were closed. But things on the cruise ship were still open. And now you want your money back? I want to talk to your manager. Who saw that coming? Oh no, who, what? Since when? Why do they always want to speak to the manager? I am the manager. Insert eating grin here. More screams. Let me ask you a question. Did you want this cruise line and this ship?
Yes.
Did you want to travel on this date?
Yes, because it was right after my wedding. I want to go to the Bahamas right after my wedding.
How long did you plan your wedding?
Almost a year.
So if I asked you to change your wedding date, you wouldn't have.
No.
Looking at me like I have 3 heads. So if you weren't willing to change your wedding day, then why are you asking me to refund you on something that I can't change? The Bahamian government isn't going to change their Independence Day for you. Goodbye. Babe, they just wanted money out of you. That's all it was. Wait till someone tells this entitled bride about siestas. Oh, you know, when like half of Europe and Latin America shut down just because they want to take a nap in the middle of the day? Try telling an Italian that they're not taking their siesta because you need to go into their shop. Just do it. You know what they're gonna say?
Ma vaffanculo.
Pay for my historic wedding, y'all. Hi, y'all. As you know, me and David are getting married. Afgeftrig married. Oh yeah? Are you? Afgeftrig? Soon I will be Mrs. David Blank. Blankety blankety blitty blank. Can you believe it? I can.
Lol, I deserve it.
Stop it. Stop. We are blessed that David's godmother has invited us to have her wedding at her estate in Maine. I'll share some photos later, but it's gorgeous and it's a historical landmark, which means my wedding is going to be historic.
Lol.
Because we are having an out-of-state wedding, which means we will be traveling and staying in hotels, and also because of our honeymoon in Dubai. 1 month? Who takes a 1-month honeymoon? 1 month? I'm asking for y'all's help with some of the wedding stuff. If anyone has any experience as a professional photographer, not a hobby but getting paid as a job, please contact me or David. We need you. This could be considered your gift to us. We need you to pay for your travel to Maine and everything, but I think once you saw where the wedding is at, you'll be begging for us for the opportunity. Oh, you think so? Yeah? I don't know about that. If anyone knows a good caterer in Maine, willing to travel to Maine, who will work for exposure. I'm gonna be starting an Instagram soon. Oh, okay, so you like literally don't even have social media and you want to pay people in social media exposure? Shut up. Any dress designers out there, I want that one-of-a-kind dress. You need to be professional and talented. I want to feel like a princess. I will post your info and all of the pictures on here and on my Instagram. So again, you want a free dress? We also need all the usual stuff: flowers, seating, music, orchestra, no DJ. This will be classy. I can already tell you our event will get press because of the historic location. So you have your husband-to-be's godmother letting you use her place as a location. So I'm assuming that cost is covered. So you literally don't want to pay for anything? Nothing? Not sure that that's gonna work. I think by definition, weddings cost money. Good luck with that. Did it turn out okay? Did you get what you wanted? I fly a lot, and I have this annoying thing that makes me need to pee while on flights. Every hour or less. That's why I always book an aisle seat so I don't need to keep bothering others to get up for me, especially on long haul flights. Dude, same. Always in the aisle because I have to pee all the time, and I hate asking people to move for me. It's so annoying.
I'm just thinking of everyone else.
Cause yeah. My bladder is like this big. A few years back, flying from Berlin to New York with Air Berlin, I tried reserving an aisle seat, but the only one available was a premium one. I added the almost $100 to the ticket price just so that I can get an aisle seat. This couple boards. They were apparently on their honeymoon, but for some reason didn't think to get select seats in advance. So they got assigned with separate seats at air check-in. One of them got a free premium seat next to the window next to me, and the other a middle seat a few rows back. Entitled beggar jams herself into the seat next to me without asking me to get up or move. At this point, she's already angry at something. She immediately clicks the call flight attendant button and huffs and puffs at every passenger boarding as if they are grabbing her potential seats. As a flight attendant walks by, entitled beggar goes full on with her honeymoon and that it's not right that the airline didn't automatically place her and her husband together or give them both a free upgrade, and that she demands to sit with her husband. It doesn't work that way anymore. You don't get to sit together usually. You have to like pay for your seat or pick your seat in advance. Otherwise, it's kind of out of luck. Flight is apparently fully booked, no available seats, and no easy ability to place the lovely couple together.
Lovely couple. Love them. So nice.
The flight attendant at this point, being polite, looks at me and said, "Sir, would you mind switching seats with this lady's husband?" I ask what seat he's in, and it's a middle seat, economy row. Not wanting to explain my whole pee issues in public, I say sorry, but I really need to be in an aisle seat. Flight attendant gets pissed at me that she now needs to deal with it. Oh, I'm sorry. That's like your job, isn't it? The entitled beggar started talking loudly in a different language with her husband, who's a few rows back, huffing and puffing, trying to make a scene. A few minutes later, about 3 flight attendants working on it while entitled beggar is yelling at them, her husband, but has yet to say a single word to me. She's moved to sit by her husband and some people are moved around for it. I get evil looks from the flight attendants during the entire flight. I pee every hour. Air Berlin goes bankrupt. Not sure if this incident is related, or is it? Oh, it's absolutely related. Absolutely. It's all because you refuse to stand up and bow to this entitled B word. That's karma. P.S. I wouldn't have minded giving up the premium seat. All I cared about was the damned aisle seat. I love how she never just like asked you, you know? See, there's this thing. Some people don't really necessarily understand it. It's called being nice and reasonable. So, usually if you're nice to people and you ask nicely, they tend to do as you ask.
Shocker, I know. What?
Entitled honeymooners kicked off a plane to the Bahamas. Why is it always the Bahamas? This happened almost 6 years ago, around Christmas time. I, along with my fiance, now husband, sister, brother-in-law, mom, and dad were on a flight from Atlanta to Nassau, Bahamas. It was a late flight, so I was already tired, and I'm not a night owl, and I can't sleep on planes at all. During boarding, there was a young couple that were making out a few rows ahead of me. You can clearly tell that they were honeymooners. I ignored their making out mostly. But the woman sitting next to them kept complaining to the flight attendants that she was very uncomfortable sitting next to them, as she told them many times to stop making out, but they ignored her. Eventually, a flight attendant forced the husband to move to another row in the back. He looked majorly pissed. Oh, to be young and in love and to annoy others with your love. Could you just like not kiss for a couple of hours, guys? Could you not like, you could kiss, but like not that much. All I could hear was his wife arguing to herself and the woman in her row. During takeoff, both of them were being super disruptive and arguing with the flight attendants, as obviously they didn't like being separated from each other and they felt they did nothing wrong. The arguing/disruption got so bad the plane had to turn around, go back to the gate, and security came in and escorted the couple off the plane. Bro, what? I was more on the piss side, as this made our flight even more delayed. Luckily, my SO helped calm me down. We then took off an hour after our original takeoff time. Funny enough, a week later on the flight from Nassau to Atlanta on the return trip, I saw a familiar looking couple waiting at the gate. Yep, the honeymooners. I guess they were able to go on their honeymoon after all. Hopefully they learned their lesson. Don't make out on planes. At least like not that much. We get it. You're in love, you're excited to spend the rest of your days with one person, and you know when you're just so in love that you just like wish you could just jump inside another person. Yeah, I get it. I do. Throwaway account because I have relatives who use Reddit. I recently got married a few days ago. It was a traditional Punjabi wedding and I had an absolute blast. For some context, I have 3 brothers and no sisters. In traditional Indian weddings, there are certain ceremonies where you would need your female relatives to be a part of. Since I have no sisters, my cousins stepped in. My families have always had a strained relationship with one another, always due to some petty fights that occurred years ago that some of the relatives just can't let go of. Most of the cousins don't partake in this because we're aware that it's ridiculous. I have one cousin I'll name X, who's extremely nice but unfortunately super shy and timid. She's always been like this, and most of us have just grown up being protective of her, especially since she's one of the youngest cousins. During one of the ceremonies, I insisted that my cousin be a main part of it because I know she would genuinely enjoy it, but would be shy to volunteer herself or ask for it. One of my cousin's fiancés, however, is quite the opposite. She constantly likes to put herself in the middle of everything, despite already being told of her given duties during the ceremony. This is the part where I may be the asshole. I'm ready. During one of the ceremonies, you are supposed to have one of your female relatives sit behind you on stage and basically just take care of you, fix your hair or your clothes. I specifically told cousin X that she would be the one to do this for me. However, when the day came, My cousin's fiance was the one who took her spot. I was confused, but could not do much. After the ceremony, I found cousin X, and she explained to me that the fiance who took her spot basically scolded her, yelled at her, and said that she should be the one doing it since cousin X is still young and doesn't know anything. She then told cousin X to go down with the other guests despite cousin X's protests. Cousin X's mother, my auntie, who I absolutely adore and has been a huge help with the wedding, was quite upset with this, but I did not want to cause a scene and just told cousin X it's okay. When I heard this, I was furious. The fiance took what was meant to be a special moment and made it all about herself. I sat the fiance down and told her that she had no right to do what she did, and I was extremely upset with her for doing so. Apparently, she was so upset by this conversation, she refused to come to the other ceremonies the next day. I was fine with this because I generally don't like adults who throw temper tantrums, but my cousin says that I had no right to speak to his fiance like that, and now his entire family has been constantly saying a lot of negative things about my family and the whole situation. Am I the a-hole? Nah. I think that brides have a right to want things done a certain way at their wedding. Okay? Despite the fact that everybody thinks that, if you make any requests, you're a bridezilla and, oh, she's so, high maintenance or whatever the hell they say. This is what you wanted for your wedding, and it was no right of your cousin's fiance to go against what you wanted. And it also kind of sounds like your family just sort of picks up on all the petty BS and just runs with it. No, you're not the a-hole. If she didn't want you to ruin her day, then she shouldn't have done what she did. Actions have consequences, friends. People can't be mad when you express boundaries if they're the ones that are pushing those boundaries. Know what I mean? Not the a-hole. Man, a Desi wedding is not complete until all the relatives are mad at each other. I feel like all families are the same. It's like the idea of meeting up as a family is like, oh my God, it's so fun. We haven't had a family reunion in so long. And it's like, oh, this is why. I hope you had a really nice wedding and that cousin X was able to help you out in other ways. What did your parents think of it all? My mother is no longer around. She passed away 6 years ago, which is why my auntie has been such a huge help. She basically stepped in and took the role of my mother without me having to ask because she understood. They helped to pay for parts of the wedding, especially with the hall rentals, the catering and the decorations for each ceremony. My father says that I should just apologize and get the whole thing over with, but I am hesitant because why would I allow her to just get away with doing this? Apologizing is overrated. Everyone's always like,
Be the bigger person. Apologize.
why? What if I don't want to be the bigger person? What if I just want to be petty? It's our Desi way to tell the children to apologize. Doesn't matter who is right or who is wrong. I think you need to talk to your auntie and cousin X and tell them what's going on. They're probably facing some blowback as well. I'd keep a united front. All right. You are not a bridezilla, my dear. Congratulations. This one ended up being deleted because it got a little sassy in the comments. Much debate was had. Bridezillas just rile people up. What can I say? Am I the a-hole for my strict no plus ones policy? I'm getting married, and like every other bride, I too have certain rules I want for my wedding to go smoothly. One of them is no plus ones. Only people named in the invitation are invited. The criteria I have for both people who will get to bring their partners are: 1, both me and my fiance know of you and your partner and have met them. If I know your partner and my fiance doesn't, that disqualifies them and vice versa. 2, if I personally go to dinner with you and your partner. 3, if I'd invite your partner as a separate person anyway and not just because they're your partner. And 4, if your partner is also a friend of mine. Those who meet that criteria get to bring their partners. If they don't, then they don't bring them. Simple. Okay. That also excludes long-term relationships, engaged couples, and married couples. Okay. We know it might seem harsh, but those are the rules we've decided to set so we can be more comfortable. It has nothing to do with budget or venue capacity, purely our choice. Okay, so then if it has nothing to do with budget or venue capacity, I can understand not wanting, everybody to bring an extra person that you have to pay for that you don't know. Go on. Several people have denied the invitation to our wedding due to these rules. One of them is also my cousin. My cousin has been engaged to this girl for 1 year now, and he was upset we didn't include her. The reason she was excluded was because my fiance hasn't met her, and she's not a person I'd personally be friends with either. I told my cousin how heartbroken I am that he will not come to the wedding due to this, and I expressed my distaste for the fact that he can't be away from his fiance for a few hours to honor me and my fiance. Couples don't have to be together the whole time. Then he basically told me I'm being extremely disrespectful and a huge a-hole. I asked him to explain, and he said word for word, let me get this clear. You want me to come to honor your wedding, honor your love story and all that, but you can't respect me enough to invite my fiance. I can be without my fiance for several hours. Heck, we'd even spend days apart and vacations with our own separate friend groups sometimes. But what bothers me is not being away from my fiance for some hours, but the fact that you excluded her for those reasons. I told him those are the rules, take it or leave it. He says he finds my rules extremely disrespectful, but since it's my wedding, he has no say in it. I told him good and to stop bullshitting me and show his support and respect by attending. He says that while he respects my extremely exclusive and disrespectful rules, I'm a fool to believe that he will care more about valuing my wedding over his fiance. I mean, here's the thing, you can make those rules. You can have strict rules for your wedding, but don't expect people to abide by them. Maybe people are uncomfortable going to a wedding without their partner. I know that I would want to bring a date to a wedding. You're the a-hole for guilt tripping with your cousin and anyone else you try to pull. Your wedding, your rules, but people are allowed to not attend for not liking your rules. Suck it up. This person's screen name is pissing off people. Appropriate, I think. Look, for the millionth time, weddings aren't just for the couple. They are community affairs. They're celebrations of marriage and coupling itself, not just this particular marriage. No one should come to a wedding who doesn't support that particular marriage, but also who doesn't support marriage and the kind of family building marriage represents. But there's reverse logic as well. Attendance and invitations must also respect coupling and marriage and the family building created by unrelated people who must come together to form a new family. If you forefront the particular couple's desire above institution or coupledom or marriage itself, then why are you having a traditional wedding? You could go in front of a clerk at City Hall or dance naked under the moon or have a couple's mud bath accompanied by a drum circle and solemn swearing. OP wants the benefit of all traditions without sharing that benefit around, and you can't get without giving. You're the a-hole. I've never heard it described in that way. Weddings are kind of a celebration of the sanctity of marriage. That's why it is like normal to bring a date to a wedding. So yeah, I can see that. It depends on what you feel a wedding should represent. I think that's more your opinion than anything. You're the a-hole. You want people to come celebrate your marriage and your relationship by asking them to leave their spouse or long-term partner at home. You are misusing the words +1. That is intended for truly single people. Established couples are to be treated as a unit. Sure, your wedding and your rules and all that BS, but if you create BS rules like this, then you have to expect people to decline. If I had a relative tell me my spouse wasn't invited because of circumstances hadn't allowed the two of them to meet yet, I'd decline too. I'm gonna say that you're not the a-hole for creating rules for your wedding, but you are the a-hole for trying to guilt trip people into following your rules. You're a bridezilla. And of course, Reddit did dub this person the a-hole. Bride asks, am I the a-hole for telling her fiance she doesn't want his female best friend at their wedding? Juicy. Oh, this one's also been removed. Juicy, juicy. My fiance has a female best friend since childhood. Now, I'm not the person who gets jealous over my partner being friends with the opposite gender. I'm bisexual, so it wouldn't be rational of me to have some weird expectations like this. Not sure if that correlates, but okay. Plus, my fiance has many female friends as a straight guy, and I have friends of both genders as well. What bothers me here is not the gender of the friend, but whether or not they're able to respect boundaries. So I make the same talk if the friend in question was a male. So to the point, his female best friend Rachel has always been in competition with me regarding on who's more important and a bigger priority to my fiance. At first, my fiance failed to stand up to her and set boundaries, but after a small break we had and after we reconciled, he realized the importance of boundaries and set hard boundaries with her. I know that whenever she sees me or hears about me, she's not happy, but we act kind to each other despite our actual feelings. The situation, by the way, has been rolling out for the past 5 years that I've been with my fiance. When he proposed, Rachel didn't congratulate us at all and completely overlooked our entire engagement and kept referring to me as my fiance's girlfriend. My fiance kept correcting her each time, telling her how she's not funny or quirky doing this. She's just disrespectful, and after a certain point, she stopped. Now that we are planning our wedding, we picked our groomsmen and bridesmaids, and my fiance has his female friends as one of his groomsmen, a groomswoman. After my fiance asked her to join that role, she texted me a lengthy paragraph which summed up to,
just so you know, your fiance and I are still each other's priority. You may marry him and have kids with him, share a house with him, but right now, he picked me as a groomswoman knowing that would bother you because he cares about not hurting my feelings more than your feelings. You can easily ruin friendships like that. Just stay in your lane and accept your place. You may be his wife, but I'm his best friend and I'm not going anywhere. Make peace with it, and who knows, soon enough, we might get along.
Those are some fighting words, Rachel. It's kind of intense. I feel like she's just like waiting for you guys to like break up. It's a bit weird. My spidey senses are going off and I don't even know her. I showed my fiance and he said he'll deal with her and I shouldn't worry. I told him I've had enough and that the only solution I'm accepting is proper consequences for her actions. This means she's either dropped as a groomswoman or uninvited. He makes the call for which one it will be, but I'm tired of his best friend not having real consequences of her actions and getting her way. I won't trust him enough to proceed with our wedding if he doesn't set clear limits and make his friend face the consequences of her behavior. He said what I'm doing is very unfair because he's not responsible for her actions and feels like I'm putting unnecessary responsibility and pressure on him. Am I the a-hole? No. No, you're not. I think she's got it a little twisted. Rachel does. You're the wife. You have the precedence. Spouses above all things, okay? Above best friends, above parents, maybe kids come first, but spouses are the top of the food chain. Don't eat your spouse. I don't know, this whole thing kind of irks me a little bit. Like, I feel like she's just waiting around for her, like, chance with him. She's getting, like, super weird and territorial over it. And, like, it's your wedding and his wedding. I don't like that. I would feel super uncomfortable with having her, like, not only a part of the wedding party, but at the wedding itself. Not the a-hole, but Rachel wasn't wrong when she said he cared more about her feelings than yours. Yeah, see, this is the issue here is I feel like the feeling between them is mutual, you know? Like the fiance and Rachel, like I feel like he needs to either recognize that you are going to be his wife and what you want matters most. I don't like that he's doesn't see that. Please consider if you want to be the second most important person in your marriage. I don't think, what's the point of getting married then? Not the a-hole, you're not being remotely unfair. The only response to that text is him telling her to get not just in regards to the wedding, his entire life. If someone had sent something half as bad as that to my husband, I would let them know that they were, for all intents and purposes, dead to me. I would not marry this man unless he takes the appropriate action. This is insanity. When I tell you that my spidey senses are like... Not the a-hole. If your fiance's response to Rachel is anything other than, what the hell is wrong with you? I don't want you at my wedding or in my life until you apologize to my future wife and realize that she is my priority from now on, then I think you are right to be concerned that he does indeed care more about her feelings than yours. She is way out of her lane sending you a message like that. Who does that? I agree. Your fiance might not be responsible for her behavior, but he is responsible for setting boundaries. We love a good boundary. We love them. I'm getting better at it. I am a doormat, but boundaries are important. Boundaries mean nothing without consequences! Say it louder for the people in the back. I might get a noise complaint if I say it louder, but you guys can say it louder. You are right to expect him to set the tone now for what he will allow Rachel to get away with, and refuse to get married until he shows you that you truly are his priority, even when it puts him in the middle of a conflict. All right, my dear, you are not a bridezilla. I, 48 female, have known Pat, 48 female, for decades. As far as I can remember, she was fixated on having 5 children and a picket fence dream life. I slowly cut ties with her in college because she was an opportunist and I didn't trust her. She is both manipulative and forceful. Her idea of cute rubs me the wrong way. Pat likes to walk like a penguin when she wants to elicit pity, and she usually does this when she wants to evoke the underdog narrative. I've never seen someone act so despicable and ridiculous at the same time. I moved on with my life, happily got rid of her for years. Pat eventually found me on Facebook. I accepted her friend request out of politeness. Pat has become the epitome of a permissive mother. Her 5 kids do as they please and she never calls them out. She tried to force a relationship between me and her daughters and made them call me
Auntie.
Okay. Pat tried to drop them at my house uninvited. Her phone calls were insistent. She tried to monopolize my time as she began to show up at my job. I created some boundaries, so she tried to find loopholes. It was a nightmare. My husband and I hosted a party for the community center, not the real name, new members. The community center is actually a very informal initiative, and my husband and I mainly serve the homeless population. We prefer to help strangers instead of catering to potentially narcissistic acquaintances. I can guess who you're talking about there. We don't mind lending a hand, but we've encountered truly dishonest choosing beggars. There are other services like one of the 3 members who helps women get their wedding and prom dresses for free. The community center location headquarters is actually a farm owned by an elderly couple. There's a barn, a venue, and a very nice green field with an artificial lake and some full. They charge for the use of their facilities, wedding, etc., but not for community-oriented stuff. Pat had always been salty at her husband for demanding that she go back to work after baby number 3. In the meantime, he worked 3 jobs. She demanded he get her pregnant to fulfill her dream of having 5 kids. He didn't agree because he was already nearly 45 and felt like he might never be able to retire. She got away with bringing new babies into the world anyway. Her fascination with being pregnant comes from all the attention she gets. Sounds about right. She's had at least 1 miscarriage in between each kid. Pat latched onto our group. She never missed any of our activities. I hated having her at my house, but it was an open invitation that included virtually everyone, and she was very active as an event organizer. I didn't like the way her kids behaved. We'd have a designated area for parties and entertainment, but her kids ended up in the bedroom. We ended up having to keep watch of them and enjoyed 0 of our own party. I called her days later to get my point across regarding their overall behavior, but she completely cut me off and began talking about herself and said her kids wanted to come visit again and use our pool. I never answered that. I didn't want to say, no, I will not have your brats over. Doesn't have a nice ring to it, does it? She also called me as summer was approaching, specifically to let me know her middle daughter was bored and wanted to spend a week at our home. I politely declined, citing that me and my husband have to work and cannot entertain guests. Pat paid no heed. Her kid called me on the weekend calling me auntie and attempted to coax me by saying,
Mom says you invited me to spend summer with you.
What? I quickly clarified and offered an explanation to avoid hurting a kid's self-esteem. Never mind, her daughter just hung up on me. Pat's Facebook also showed some red flags. Some cryptic rants here and there were visible, along with friends' comments and complaints about how she asked a particular person to watch her kids only for a couple hours and ended up leaving them all day. If you can't handle 5 children, don't have 5 children. Another of her friends criticized her girls' night out because Pat had just asked them to be patient and wait until she could pay back some money that she owed them. Yet she had money to spend on Friday night outings. I thought those very public comments on private matters were more like a cry of lost patience. Unpleasant things began to happen, like the time she volunteered to wrap the Christmas presents for underprivileged kids. We wanted to create a mix of less costly gifts with really nice ones. Surprisingly, some nice and eye-catching toys and games went missing, but turned up under her Christmas tree courtesy of her mother-in-law's Facebook post. Bruh? Are you kidding me? She stole from underprivileged children! Hell no! No one could prove anything, but it was hate-inducing. Pat's husband, Hank, is what can be described as a doormat. Pat wore him down to a knob. He had no choice but to obey her to keep the peace. Oh God, poor Hank. Oh, Hank. She was a bully who actively withdrew affection when he didn't follow her wishes, even in public. So she got kids number 4 and 5 after a relentless campaign that included leaving him for 2 months. Her pregnancies were a nuisance because she expected to be treated like the only lady who's ever been pregnant. She strolled around in a wheelchair almost immediately after getting pregnant, and she would get very sick on weekends, so her kids were often sent to friends and family so that she could rest. Pat systematically bullied Hank. She would leave town and take the kids with her. Poor Hank would look distraught, drinking on his porch, or just looking really lonely. This is how she got off the hook and was able to leave her job. Hank had virtually no voice, so he struggled to keep the marriage together. Everyone liked him, but hated her equally. Hank loved to talk to other people, but seemed concerned that Pat would be upset. Over time, according to my husband, Hank began to show signs of depression and mental distress. Oh, buddy. Hankity Hank. Hank. Oh God, I feel so bad for the husbands. Our friend Lena runs the wedding/prom dress initiative. It's not complicated. Dresses are sourced from donations, eBay, trunk shows, etc. Unusually beautiful dresses are retained so that more than one bride gets to wear them. In some cases, a bride will pay $50, but most of the time the dresses are donated to the bride. Pat was involved in this. Lena kept her in because they never had any issues and her task was limited to just shipping the dresses out. Pat decided to renew her vows, and her Bridezilla Karen attitude became the icing on the cake. For starters, she bullied another couple into giving up their wedding date at the farm because she needed her renewal to match her exact wedding date. They were not impressed with the harassment, so they booked another venue. I think that's what she wanted, no? As a result, the farm owners were pissed because Pat was already costing them money after she successfully negotiated a cut in their rate because she couldn't afford it, but would repay it by doing maintenance work around the venue. She never made good on her word. Why am I not surprised? Pat became attached to a particular dress that was already assigned to another bride. Lena made it clear she would need to pay for her own dress, so Pat played it cool and shipped the wrong gown instead. Like, it's actually laughable at this point. Like, are you kidding me right now?
How are people this entitled?
She was adamant that it was the right dress despite all the notes on Leia's agenda. The other bride was truly gracious about it. She was obviously disappointed but never made a scene. What bothers me the most is I picked that dress and bought it for $40 at a garage sale. Not my money, Leah's money. It was a vintage dress, ankle length, with lots of lace and a huge bargain. Again, when confronted, Pat used the "this is mine" strategy. Oh my god. We felt so bad for the other bride that we did our best to get her something nice to wear. The other bride was a true fighter. She had pulled out of welfare, earned her high school diploma, and was working to get on her feet by trying to earn a certificate as an acrylic nail technician. So her reward was to have some Karen steal her dress. Where does Pat live? I just want to talk to her quickly. Pat never admitted to messing up, but just by the fact that she claimed it was her dress, we knew. Lena never allowed her in her warehouse again. The last phone fight ended with Pat bringing up the other bride's past, like it mattered, and
This conversation is over. It's my dress and you are mistaken.
this was weeks before the other bride's wedding. Pat went all out on her wedding decor. She spent way too much. She hired a caterer for some food, mainly mimosas and appetizers, but the wedding invitation included a request for specific dishes for her Sunday brunch wedding. Either she ran out of banquet money or was on a complete moocher mode. Honestly, probably both. I picture the penguin walking upon, practically asking everyone to supply her wedding reception grub, and I cringe. There's nothing wrong with potluck weddings. In fact, they can be a nice addition to a very cozy and family-oriented wedding reception. But don't you need to at least be close to your guests in order to ask for such a thing? Even I got an invitation. I told everyone I wasn't going because I was very uncomfortable being told what to bring and was probably expected to give them cash on top of that. Some of the older ladies in our group agreed. Some said they would not decline in advance because she's a bully and they didn't want a confrontation. Lena called me the night before Pat's re-wedding. Lena was there to close the Saturday night bingo and Pat was awfully friendly, but that's what she does whenever things are going her way. Lena peeked into the garment bag and saw the exact same dress while Pat was caught up supervising the wedding decoration. The thing with Karens is that they expect everyone to suck it up or make their dreams come true, or simply underestimate everyone and think we are all fools. Lena is a very straightforward person with a so sue me attitude. She told me she would just ruin the dress. After all, it was hers, so she could do whatever she wanted. If Pat wanted to take legal action, should things get ugly, she needed to prove ownership. However, the dress was the same, the marks inside the hem and tags were the same. Even the tag numbers that were punched to identify each dress for logistics purposes matched. Pat had the dress altered with some extra beading and dyed to a deep cream color, but it was obviously the same garment. Lena and I snuck in before the venue was closed for the night. All brides are allowed to stay in the small bedroom for a small charge, so that they didn't need to drive in on their wedding day. Honestly, the makeshift chapel was gorgeous. I don't know how she paid for it, but it was full of flowers and presumptuous details. I naively brought in some ink to spill on the dress, but Lena said she wanted to do something more awful.
Like a nasty surprise.
Oh, okay, this is getting good. Ink would be too obvious. If she saw it ahead, she may be able to snag another gown from somewhere. No, the ideal thing was to have her trust the dress was fine. So Lena locked herself in the bathroom stall and completely cut out the back panel. She patiently put it back on its hanger and zipped the bag. We left through the emergency door with the back of the dress stuffed inside Lena's purse. The wedding was scheduled at 9 a.m. Pat called me at 7 a.m., but I ignored her calls. I picked up by 8 a.m., both curious and wondering if she suspected anything.
She was frantic.
She was crying that her dress was missing by half. I purposefully made her explain, being annoyingly dense and continually interrupting her like she does, and stalling the conversation. She asked me if I could lend her my wedding dress. I said no, sorry. She then asked me if I would help get her a dress. I was satisfied to remind her that the town's bridal shops were closed on Sunday. And the others that were open were almost an hour away. The farm is already almost 1 hour away from our town. If Pat could get to a shop to rent a dress, she would need to try it on and get it steamed. Even if the dress was ready to wear, it would easily take more than 2 hours round trip. She tried to ask me to go pick a dress. Who would pay for this? By the time it got to her, it would be time to wrap up the wedding because she needed to clear the venue by 12 o'clock for the next event. She broke down and mumbled some stupid stuff I didn't understand, so Pat hung up on me and called Lena instead. She asked Lena to bring her anything she had available. Lena and I ended up delivering the most outdated, most smelling, most oversized dress. Pat's disappointment was a mix between angry and emotional. She also tried to wear her knee-length silk bridal slip as a wedding dress, but it was too obvious and it really looked cheap. The dress needed a petticoat to plump up the skirt, which wasn't available, so it dragged all over the floor and Pat had to keep pulling it up. Pat walked down the aisle with one hand on her bouquet and another one grabbing her dress. The dress looked limp and weird with the arrangements of pins. They didn't show. That caused the sleeves and neckline to pucker in messy rims. She spent the ceremony looking uncomfortable and out of place. Very few people attended. I'm not surprised. But that was not part of any revenge. That was just how people reacted to her entitled attitude. The dress looked awful. The reception portion of the wedding had all this princely decoration, a very nice cake, and a bridezilla with a dress from hell. I didn't stay, but I was told she was so disappointed she spent her wedding sulking. There was no dance, no actual speech. She had to change into a shirt and leggings because the dress was too uncomfortable. Everyone talked about how Pat put on her flip-flops and was walking around aimlessly until she ordered the ushers to start folding up the chairs within 1 hour of the reception. So she practically kicked everyone out and the cake was never cut. Pat wasn't the same after this. She was not as loud and avoided everyone. I think she was disappointed that nobody ran to her rescue, not even her family who came from out of town. All right, do you guys want to see the dress? Ready? What she thought she was going to be wearing.
Beautiful.
And what it actually was. The dress was even bigger. Bridezilla slam for charging guests $150 to attend wedding. Okay. Research suggests that a third of brides could be classified as bridezillas. Oh, that would make sense why I've done about 100 of these videos. My sister is turning into the biggest bridezilla and I can't stop laughing.
Goody.
So, a little background. I'm the second youngest of 5 kids. My older siblings are 2 brothers and 1 older sister who we'll call E for the purposes of this post. E and I have a 5-year age gap. As a result, we never really had that sisterly bond you would expect most sisters have. Growing up, I was always a burden to her, and anytime it was my turn to pick the family movie or really anything, she would get upset. The reason being that she had control issues as early as 9. So I'm guessing you can already see where I'm going with this. I'm currently 18, about to turn 19. Woo! Happy birthday. And E turned 24 earlier this year. Her boyfriend, A, proposed to her at a family beach day earlier in June of this year. It was one of those big white letters and rose petals proposals, which he set up before my family arrived. She was thrilled, said yes, and my parents were very happy along with my older sibling. The youngest is 4, so I don't think she understood what was happening. Now here's the drama. Since the proposal, she's gone into full bridezilla mode. At the behest of my mom, E made me a bridesmaid. So I'm roped into all of this BS. So far, these are the demands my sister has made. My dear sister has made. All bridesmaids are to pay for their own dresses. A $300 dress in blush pink, shoes, hair, and makeup. 2, all bridesmaids need to attend all wedding and bachelorette events, including the bachelorette spa day, $800 each. The bachelorette vacation weekend to Toronto, hey, and stay at the Fairmont Hotel, expensive, $1,000 weekend just for a hotel. And unpopular opinion, the Fairmont is like not that nice and very expensive. The dress appointments, even just for bride, all alterations covered by the person, $300 dress plus approximately $300 alterations, etc. All things to do with the wedding, the cake, the venue, the catering they need to attend, the cake and food tasting, they all need to pay $25. The guests and the bridal groom party need to pay $150 to reserve their spots. And gifts have to either be cash, check, or from the list of registry items. She has a spreadsheet of what everyone is gifting, and she says she will return items that aren't from her registry / match her theme. Oh, okay. My mom says it's bride anxiety. I say it's just my sister trying to control everything because she wants a December wedding on a ski hill. Anyways, I figure if people are interested, I could periodically update on what happens. Thanks for reading. Edit, I realize I didn't include the controlling parts. My bad. Here they are. 1, all bridesmaids need to go to hair and skin appointments every 6 weeks to ensure our hair and skin is flawless for pictures. It's out of pocket too. Hold on. Hang on. What? Anyone with tattoos need to cover them. Our dresses will do that. They go to the neck, ankles, and wrists. The bride wants to be the only one sleeveless, showing her tattoos and colorful hairstyle. Either way, we need to get our hair dyed to a natural color or wear a wig at our expense.
Buddy.
The dresses only come in sizes 00 to 10, pretty good range for most, but those who don't fit are expected to try to lose weight. I'm a size 12 and already my sister is calling me fat. She sent me a keto diet book through Amazon. Ugh, keto is the worst diet. Speaking from experience. And also, really? No one. Vendors are to communicate directly with the bride and groom. It has to go through us first. Kind of odd for someone who claims to be controlling. She made a Gmail with last name wedding, which we all have access to, and we aren't supposed to ask her if something is okay. We should just know. This is the part that stresses mom out. Yeah. What if you make the wrong decision? Then it's your fault. Oh, no. No. We need to remind guests that they need to pay a deposit of $150 to save their spot, and if we don't get it, they don't come. We also need them to confirm what they'll purchase from the registry or the amount they'll give. Oh, this is like, okay, so you're kind of expecting no one to show up to your wedding. Edit 2, y'all are making me realize my family isn't normal. I'm going to look into therapy with my uni and see if I can move into residence earlier. I want to thank the person who private messaged me about getting my mom off my bank account and also my birth certificate. I think I'm going to do that. Edit 3, I'm going to take some time away from this just because a lot of you are right. This isn't normal. Our relationship as a family is not normal. I called my aunt while I was at work. For those of you who don't know, she's my godmother and she thinks my mom is nuts. And we talked about it. She's encouraging me to talk to my parents about everything, not only the wedding, but favoritism since childhood. And she's also on standby in case things go to crap. So, I would say that, yeah, she's being a bridezilla.
Oh, okay, wait.
Bridezilla or not, she sure is selfish. These costs are being expectations. I'd let your mom know that you need some money or you'd love to be a guest. What happens if you can't afford all of this? I guess you just don't go. Even the guests have to pay $150. There isn't going to be anyone at this wedding and it will be glorious. It seems like pay $150 and a gift. On what planet is this reasonable? I'm a grown-ass adult with a job, and that's beyond my means. The bachelorette weekend is more than my mortgage. F that noise. Oh my goodness. You know, as much as I love doing these videos and like, you know, how much I love weddings, I do love a good wedding. I love it. Love is great. I love love. But it's so expensive. Oh God. And it's like everyone that didn't get married during COVID is now getting married in the same summer. And I'm like, I can't justify this expense. Bridezilla slammed for issuing 7 rules for her wedding, including a strict dress code, no phones, and a booze ban.
Okay.
My partner and I have copped so much over the rules that we have for our wedding in February. And this trend has been all over my For You page, so I thought, why not? I'm going to make a video about my rules. This is the one that caused most of the stir, is that we're not having any children except for our own son at our wedding. This is for a lot of reasons, but the main reason is that we only have 50 seats. We're getting married in a registry. Both of our families are quite large. If we brought everyone's children, we'd only have 25 spare seats, which is basically our immediate family, and that's it. Number 2 is that the bar tab will not be starting until 5 p.m. Our reception is starting at 2 o'clock. We really don't want everyone to be legless and going home in a taxi before the night has even begun. We want everyone to look good in the photos, feel good, and for the bar tab to last into the night as well. Number 3 is that there will be no phones during the ceremony. I will literally stop what I'm doing in the middle of my vows if I have to and go tell you to put your phone away. We are paying $3,000 for a photographer. Take pictures with us afterwards. Number 4 is that there will be no +1s. If we wanted them there, they would be. This is a bit harsh, but quite frankly, it's the truth. I do not want to be forking out hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for this wedding to pay for drinks and food and entertainment for someone I don't even know.
Some of those rules are reasonable. But I can tell you right now, if the guests at your wedding are standing around without alcohol for 3 hours, they're not going to be happy about it. Is there any other reason to go to a wedding other than the free alcohol? Oh yeah, the couple getting married, right. But I mean, the free alcohol is definitely the point for a lot of people. It's what justifies, you know, the expensive gifts and all the planning and the outfits and the time taken off. Like, it's a party, right? You know, tell me you're an alcoholic without telling me. I would say it's more your attitude in this video that's more bridezilla-y than the post itself. Comments are turned off, eh? Interesting. Yeah, girlfriend, I don't really think that it's your wedding rules. I think it's the way that you presented them. Bridezilla demands bridesmaids take off engagement rings so hers is center stage. No, you didn't. Bridesmaids can only wear wedding bands, not engagement rings. I was a bridesmaid in a wedding where the bride sent a wedding update email to her 8 bridesmaids about a week out saying, among other things, that she didn't want us married bridesmaids to wear our engagement rings. Only our wedding bands. She said it would help spotlight her rings for
Wedding photo purposes.
My guess is that she wanted her diamond to be the star of the show. But the weird thing is that her ring is so much bigger than the rest of ours anyway, almost 3 carats. Super weird. All of us bridesmaids complied because it wasn't worth the drama, except for one who had her band and engagement ring soldered together. The bride asked to turn the stone around so it was inside her hand during the wedding. Listen, no one is looking at those rings except this bride. I can tell you that much. And it's 100% about the fact that she wants her ring to be the biggest. Bridezilla expects guests to wear Burberry scarves and Louboutin heels to her beach wedding. And what if we don't have a Burberry scarf or Louboutin heel? On the beach? Really? You want people to wear Louboutins on the beach? One aspect of planning a wedding is coming up with a theme, such as the color scheme, decor, flowers, and table setting, which could be carried onto the dress code. While it's understandable that much thought and careful planning goes into executing these themes, it really shouldn't be at the expense of the wedding guests. Of course, it's nice to have, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. This bride, however, took the whole stick to the theme brief to a whole other level by telling her guests exactly what to wear. And to make matters even worse, she broke down the looks according to guests' weight. Women weighing between 45 and 70 kilograms were to wear green velvet sweaters, orange suede pants, and red Louboutin heels topped off with a Burberry scarf. Sounds ugly. Sorry. Not sorry. That sounds really ugly. Men under 90 kilograms were told to wear fluffy pink jackets with a soda hat, white sneakers, and topping off this attire. Plain glow sticks. Children wearing all red. What? That, however, wasn't as big of an issue as the extremely costly and very specific designer brands listed in the must-wear list. A pair of Louboutin heels can set you back about a few $100, $1,000. Burberry scarf, also a few $100. When the bride sent out the invitation, she said, "You have a year and a half to get working, no excuses." Bride doesn't hire a photographer because they want someone with a larger social media following. Hello, thanks for sending over the contract for us to look over. We absolutely loved your work. The style is exactly what we want. We loved your personality on the consult call. This is nothing personal. We just want someone that has a larger social media following because our day is going to be beautiful and deserves a larger audience. Our dream is to have other couples use our day as a guide. We can't thank you enough for all the recommendations for other vendors. That was so kind and helpful. The wedding planning guide was also helpful. Thanks. Why does it matter if the photographer has a larger social media following? Social media followings do not guarantee quality. They do not say anything about how skilled you are as a photographer.
Quality minimum, quantity maximum.
I'm always baffled by the people who think anyone cares as much about their wedding as they do. Let's be honest, brides are the main character for their day. Just that day. Everything leading up to that day, I'm sorry, you're not the main character.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Once as a bridesmaid, I had to pull the bride aside and say, this may be the biggest day of your life, but this isn't the biggest day of any of the rest of our lives.
Ooh, burn!
Lives. Facts. It sounds horrible, but she really was acting as if her wedding day was the most important day since the creation of the universe. She did chill out after that, but only a little bit. Well, I'm glad you managed to turn down that knob. Bride gets RSVPs from wedding guests only after the fact, tells everyone who said they were coming that they need to pay $75 per plate. Another one, eh? Okay, I contemplated posting on this, but as time passes, I grow more inclined to do so, as I seriously need your thoughts on this, not for a friend, but for me, as I'm completely stupefied by this happening. We received the most beautiful wedding invitation via mail, and we responded well before the deadline with our choice of dinner and space for 2. Days later, we receive a sweet voicemail of thanks for responding, followed by a request for $150 to cover dinner at $75 per person.
That's outrageous.
Okay, what? Has anyone ever heard of this happening? What in all of creation on planet Earth? By the way, this is not a destination wedding, and even at those we've attended, we'd never had to pay for a plate. Help. I think that we've all come to terms with the fact that you're gonna have to pay for things if you're gonna have a wedding. You're most definitely gonna have to pay for people to eat at the very, very least. Drinks. I've seen cash bars, donation bars. It's not unreasonable to ask for people to give, you know, donations for drinks or whatever. But asking people to pay for the dinner at your wedding, this is not some like amazing event that people are like, you know, paying to go see a concert.
You take that back!
This is your wedding. It's expensive. If you can't afford it, have a smaller wedding.
Where's the fun in that?
The author later added an update. Okay, at the suggestion of a very few dear people, I had a conversation during my lunch break that went something like this. Hi, love. We've received your voicemail and had a bit of a concern about the fee for dinner. May we ask why there is? Her response, I kid you not. Who are you to ask about what I'm doing for my wedding? I don't understand why all of these folks are declining after my calls to them like we're supposed to pay for everyone to damn eat. It's my wedding. You either pay or you don't come. After about 7 seconds of silence on my end and a big to my phone, I politely said, darling, it's in poor taste to have sent invites, received RSVPs, and followed up voice notes to pay for the meal. Had the invites been printed beforehand, your invited guests could decide from there on whether or not they are to attend. I don't appreciate the tone you've taken with me when my question has come from a genuine place. Her response, well, you've heard what I said. Either pay or don't come. My response, our acceptance is rescinded and you have a good life. Terminates call. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, what in the hell on earth did I experience? I have not been right for the remainder of this day and I still have 4 hours left of it. You either pay or you don't come. Okay, again, your wedding is an important event in your life. But can you imagine if everyone made everyone else pay for their own weddings? It doesn't surprise me that people canceled after that. You should have said that from the beginning and then let people decide.
That would spoil the surprise.
It's my wedding. You either pay or you don't come. Well, prepare for a wedding with no one attending then. Is this supposed to be the gift or in addition to the gift? That's a good point. If she didn't expect people to get her a gift and instead just wanted to have like a nice wedding, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for people to pay for the plates. But if you expect a gift and for people to pay for the food, I don't know, that's a bit much, no? Am I being unreasonable?
Not at all.
Either way, it's incredibly tacky, but if the bride had worded it in a more respectful manner and made it clear that this was the gift and nothing more was expected of the guests, it might not have been that bad. Nah, f it, it's super tacky no matter how it's worded. Yikes, no, you invite who you can afford to invite. That's the end of that. I always pay for my plate with my wedding gift. So if my FI and I are attending, it's a restaurant that costs $150 a plate, I'll give $300 as a wedding gift. That's just how my family has always done it. But to reach out and demand that is just tacky. I have family members that are in college. Should I expect them to give that much? No, that is so wrong. I want my friends and family with me to celebrate my happy day, not because I want them to give me money. I couldn't have said it better myself. I told you, Bridezillas out here wildin'. They be wildin'.
They're all out of control.
Bridezilla slammed for demanding fiance wears contacts at a wedding to hide his genetic condition.
I'm sorry, what?
A bride-to-be has been slammed online after she told her fiance with heterochromia to wear contact lenses for their wedding photos so his eye colors would match! Ah! Damn it! Shut up! No, you didn't. Did you? Did you really do that? A bride has found herself in hot water after she suggested that her fiance should change a major part of his appearance in preparation for their wedding photos. I'm sorry, heterochromia is one of the coolest genetic conditions ever. It's literally so attractive. Why are you marrying him if you don't like his eyes? And why are you embarrassed that much? I'm sorry, is this wedding still happening? A woman took to Reddit to ask if she was being unreasonable when she approached her fiance about the possibility of him wearing contact lenses when they get married because he has a genetic condition, which means he has different colored eyes. In her post, the bride-to-be said it would be nice if her partner, who has one blue eye and one brown eye, could have matching eye colors in their wedding snaps, especially if it meant they could match eye colors between them. However, the suggestion made her fiance livid. Really? That's surprising. He told me that he thought I didn't mind his eye colors, and I said that I obviously didn't, but I would greatly appreciate it if he wore contact lenses to match his eyes colors for the wedding photos. I said he could even match his eye colors with mine, as I have blue eyes, while he has one blue eye and one brown eye. Oh, did you? Oh, how gracious of you. That's so nice. The woman said she thought her husband-to-be was overreacting by being upset about her suggestion, and the pair are now having a bigger argument than she anticipated. She added, however, he hasn't been receptive to my suggestion at all. I told him that he's greatly overreacted as I don't want him to wear them permanently just for our wedding photos, but I don't get why, because everyone knows that he has heterochromia. So why is it that you want him to not have heterochromia for the wedding photos? I don't understand. Like, do you think this is gonna get published in a magazine or something? Like I said, you're not the main character of everyone else's lives, okay? And furthermore, I feel like a groom with heterochromia would get you published in like a magazine. That is so cool.
And hot.
So this post on Reddit was actually removed because people were really upset. One person said, you say you don't mind his eyes, and yet you're so ashamed that you don't want them in your wedding pictures. If you can't be happy standing next to him for who he is, you don't deserve to stand next to him at all. Say it louder for the people in the back! That's so weird, man. It's gonna be a no from me. Absolutely wild.
Now that's entertainment.
Am I the a-hole for asking my sister's cop husband to stand watch at my wedding? Go on. So here's the situation. My fiance's parents, my in-laws, aren't approving of our relationship. We asked why, tried to work it out, but no avail. The drama started once we announced our engagement and sent out wedding invitations. My fiance's parents lost their invitations after threatening to show up and ruin the wedding. But since the wedding will be held at my house, I won't guarantee that provoking their invitations will stop them. Matter of fact, that made them more upset. I kept stressing about that, and since our budget could barely cover wedding expenses, I figured hiring security guards won't be possible. I met up with my sister and her cop husband, we're not close, days ago at my parents' house. I told them what's been going on with my in-laws and asked my brother-in-law if he could secure the wedding and stand watch from start to finish to make sure no shows or interruptions will happen. For some reason, the room went radio silent. Yeah, same, yeah. My brother-in-law just stared at me and then covered his mouth like he was pissed or something. I explained again how much of wackos my in-laws are basically, and I'm just trying to make sure my wedding won't get ruined. He kept quiet, but I told him it's my only way and perhaps he should say yes because of my financial situation. I'm sorry, you're asking your brother-in-law to just basically be like a cop at your wedding? Am I understanding this correctly? What? My sister asked me to follow her to the kitchen, then went off on me saying that was way out of line and I should stop treating her husband as my servant and expecting him to do whatever I want just because I felt bold enough to ask. She also said she was appalled that I'd even consider making my brother-in-law play security guard and not attend the wedding like any other decent guest. I think I agree. I argued that I only asked because he has background when it comes to taking extra precautions, and I cannot afford to hire a professional security. That would be a bad idea anyway because my friends will start asking questions. But if it's my brother-in-law who's experienced in dealing with these kinds of situations and knows how to de-escalate, then that's a win-win. She said I offended him and disrespected him and her, and then told me he doesn't have to do anything for me and my problems are mine to deal with and not his to worry about. I said fine, but I won't be welcoming him at the wedding then. I'm sorry, what? She berated me saying that I'm being an opportunist and walked out. She left shortly afterwards and my parents said I really shouldn't have asked, then pressed the issue by saying my brother-in-law isn't welcome to the wedding if he says no. Am I the a-hole or were they overreacting?
I think we should tell her.
Yeah, you're the a-hole for sure. As with anything, context is appreciated, more context. But now I'm starting to question why your in-laws don't want you to get married. Like there might be some more context that needs to be shared. But let's see what Reddit had to say. You're the a-hole. Can you work for free at my wedding? No, then don't come to my wedding. Yeah, you're the a-hole here. Next, OP will be posting here pissed because her sister decided to stay home with her husband who was uninvited. Doesn't need to worry about the in-laws ruining the wedding. OP is taking care of all of that by themselves. And got no one to blame but yourself, sweetheart. The thing I don't understand is what was the point of uninviting the brother-in-law after he refused her request to stand watch from start to finish? Even if he said yes, he'd still have missed the wedding since he would have been too busy doing unpaid work as event security. At least this way he doesn't have to work for free for OP's entitled. I'm not at all surprised to hear that fiance's parents aren't a big fan of yours. You're the a-hole. Order! I know we are quite upset at this video. I know it has ruffled some feathers. However, it's over. You're the a-hole.
Me? What did I do?
No, not you. Her. I like you. Am I the a-hole for leaving my sister's wedding early because she kept my husband out of the pictures? My 31 male sister Anne, 34 female, got married on Saturday. My husband of 7 years, Mark, 32 male, was there with me, and up until one point, it was an amazing evening. After the ceremony, Anne wanted a picture with all of our siblings. There's 5 of us and their respective partners, so we started lining up. When Anne saw that my husband was standing next to me, she shook her head and said something about him ruining the aesthetic. I'm sorry, is your relationship not aesthetically pleasing to your sister? Apparently, her plan was to put one man and one woman next to each other alternately. Okay. Are you serious? My younger sister, 18 female, who doesn't have a partner and was standing on the very side, offered to stand between the two of us so we could be close and Anne's wish could still be respected. Okay, yeah, that's a decent solution. I fail to understand why, if people are gonna be standing with their partners, what does it matter if they're aesthetically pleasing or not?
She's horrible.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it. It just kind of sounds like she doesn't like the fact that you're gay. Sorry. Is that like, am I reaching here? Because what is this really about? I thought that was a great solution, but Anne disagreed and told Mark to get out of the picture. He's quite introverted and tries to avoid confrontation under all circumstances, so he simply complied and told me not to get angry. But it was obvious that he was hurt and disappointed by being left out.
Yeah, no Sherlock.
I fail to see why she wouldn't want her brother-in-law in the photos with her. Obviously, it didn't stop me from getting angry, and I walked away with him. I can understand that Anne wants her wedding pictures to look exactly like how she imagined them. Did she also imagine that her brother would be straight? Burn! But I think that the idea my younger sister proposed was very reasonable. I congratulated Anne and her husband one last time, but then I said my goodbyes. When I was asked why we were leaving early, especially before taking pictures, I said I didn't feel like our presence was wanted. Literally. We left before dinner was served, and I took Mark out to his favorite restaurant to cheer him up a little. Anne has texted me since saying I was being over dramatic and making a fuss over nothing. Okay, but she's the one that didn't want your husband in the picture. Like, you offered a solution. You said, okay, so then we can just put a girl in between us. But she's the one that didn't want your husband in the picture. Why is that?
Seems kind of gay.
Our parents have tried to remain neutral, but except for my younger sister, the rest of my family supports Anne and think that leaving early was going too far and that I should have sucked it up instead of ruining her big day. Also, to edit for confusion, my husband is able-bodied and white, so is most of my family, but we are indeed a gay couple. I don't think you were the a-hole, my dear. I think that not wanting someone to be in pictures deliberately is really rude. I don't care if it's your wedding or not. What does it matter if they're in the pictures? Unless you have an ulterior motive for not wanting them to be in the pictures, which is also a reason to leave.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Not the a-hole. Has your sister always been shamelessly homophobic? See? Or has the wedding brought out a new side of her?
That's new.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not crazy, because that is the first, I didn't want to like jump the gun or anything, because that is what I got from this. I admit, I didn't even realize that was a possibility. I just saw 2 married people at a wedding. So that to me would probably feel like I was being discriminated against. I've never been discriminated against in that way, but I think that they were there and they probably felt some type of way about being excluded. 100% homophobia, even if the sister doesn't even realize it. If you're fully embracing a family member as LGBTQ+, aesthetic of siblings with their partners having one couple being 2 gay men would mean nothing. This sounds homophobic. Like, this sounds like she does not like gay people. The aesthetic for a siblings and partner photo is that your siblings and their partners are in the photo. If anything, you could make an argument to do a photo with and without the younger single sister. That's a good point. Could have been like, okay, we'll get one where the aesthetic is what I want, and then we'll get one with all the siblings together with their partners. The bride fully didn't want him to be in the photo. It wasn't about that. It was about him not wanting him to be in the photo. Your parents are not being neutral either. That is a good point. They are showing they are uncomfortable with the gay couple by siding on the sister's side of the argument about BS aesthetic and letting it look how the sister imagined it, aka hetero couples only. You're not the a-hole, my dear. And you gotta talk to your sister about her issues.
Which one?
Am I the a-hole for leaving my friend's wedding when she told me I needed to cover up my psoriasis? God, these brides really do be out here thinking that their wedding is like some sort of like magazine shoot or something. You're getting married. This isn't Vogue. And by the way, Vogue would for sure put someone with psoriasis on the cover. Aren't we keeping up with beauty standards now? Everybody is different. Let's embrace it. You made me sit. I'm sure you were sitting already, but you make you sit down again. I, 24 female, have psoriasis. It is all over my body and presents like vitiligo in a way, just so you can get an image in your head. I have medicated cream that helps with the itchiness, and it also helps with the dryness. The psoriasis is all over my body with it stopping right on my neck, and I do have a few spots on the side of my face near my ears. I've always been pretty embarrassed as I cannot cake on enough makeup to truly cover up my psoriasis. It's textured and thick, and on top of that, no matter what I do or however I attempt said makeup, it always looks horrible. There is something about applying makeup to texture that just makes it look 10 times worse. And the fact that you're covering it up is just like you're adding product to it, and that just makes it stick out more. It just looks like you're trying to cover something up, you know? My doctor also recommended to not smother the areas with makeup as it tends to make it worse and itchier. That is a good point. And it doesn't surprise me because like your skin is kind of peeling off and stuff, and that's kind of creating like an open wound, so to speak, and you don't want to be covering that up and putting makeup on it. My friend's wedding was on Saturday, and of course I was invited. I bought a dress that would cover my body fairly well as I didn't want to draw attention to myself. The entire week leading up to the wedding, I was continuously testing concealers on the remaining spots that were exposed, which made me itchy, and I basically scratched my skin raw. Oh, girl, that's brutal. With psoriasis, those areas can sometimes bleed if I scratch too much, which is what happened. My boyfriend, who was attending the wedding, told me I shouldn't worry about it and that it would be better if I just stopped trying to cover them as it was just making it worse. You're here for the boyfriend. I reluctantly agreed, and we attended the wedding ceremony. It was great. I was extremely happy for my friend and her now husband. But as we were leaving to go to cocktail hour, she pulled me aside and asked if I was going home to cover up my psoriasis. Never did I think that someone who had just gotten married would be so fixated on someone else's skin condition and felt it necessary to tell that someone to go cover it up.
Girl, don't you got bigger things to worry about?
I was a little taken aback and explained that I couldn't, as the entire week I'd been testing concealers and made it 20 times worse. She told me she didn't care.
Friends like these, huh?
Absolutely not. No way. This was her wedding and she didn't want her guests asking me questions or feeling queasy during dinner. Okay. No one feels queasy except for you, darling. It's not that serious. God, what a bitch. I'm sorry. That is so rude. My boyfriend stepped in and told her if that was the case, we would be leaving and not attending the rest of the wedding. She was pissed off and extremely angry at that choice, and ever since, she's been ranting about it to our friends. She was angry that your boyfriend, stand-up guy, stuck up for you and you guys threatened to leave the wedding because she insulted you and the way that you look.
That is correct.
Not the a-hole, and honestly, that would be the end of the friendship for me. She really showed you her true colors, didn't she? OP response, that's why I put friends in quotes, because I don't think I'll ever speak to her again. I don't think you should, babes. I don't think anybody would really care all that much. Nobody's gonna get queasy, except for maybe her. And frankly, if your friend gets queasy at the sight of you, yeah, you shouldn't be friends with that person. For the record, I don't think that she gets queasy at the sight of you. I think that she was just being incredibly rude. You're not the a-hole, my dear. And I really like your boyfriend, by the way. At least you have him through all of this. Stand-up guy. Am I the a-hole for wearing my engagement ring when I knew my stepsister was getting engaged? I will be the judge of that, but doesn't sound like it. I, 28 female, got engaged at the beginning of December. For Christmas, I was staying with my mom and stepdad, and they were hosting my stepdad's whole family. Step-siblings, mothers, brothers, cousins, families, for a New Year's party. Prior to this, my stepsister, 29 female, Rachel's now fiance Matt, informed my parents that he was going to propose and asked if it would be okay to do it at the party, and my parents agreed.
First mistake.
For the party, everyone was dressing up, and obviously, to me, I was wearing my engagement ring.
As one does.
Everybody already knew I was engaged, but it was the first time they'd seen the ring in person. So at the start of the party, everyone was interested in seeing it. I did notice that Matt was being a bit cold with me, but I thought it was nerves. Oh, was like Matt a little uncomfortable with the ring size? You made him look like a chump? What happened? What's happening here? Or is this simply just a case of your engagement overshadowed his engagement? Let's find out. The proposal happened and it was beautiful. Everybody congratulated Rachel, but it was kind of a 50-50 on people wanting to look at and compliment her ring and mine. Awkward. Okay. A lot of comparisons were made, nothing unkind, and everyone was really happy for Rachel, as was I. The day after, Rachel and Matt blew up at me about wearing my ring to the party. This is what happens when you get engaged. You wear rings.
It's quite cool.
Honestly, if they were that worried about the comparison and you know, kind of like taking the limelight, maybe they should have picked a later date to do the engagement. Rachel said I was deliberately trying to draw attention to myself on her special night.
What are you talking about?
Okay, but you also get to be congratulated on your engagement, not just her. And that since I knew beforehand she was getting engaged, so I shouldn't have worn my ring. No, that doesn't work like that. When you get engaged, you wear your ring everywhere. Since I don't always wear it anyway. Well, okay, that's fair, but like I would imagine you would probably wear it to like a New Year's Eve party where people are dressed up and looking nice. I don't really agree with this since I've been engaged for weeks and everybody already knew about it. It's not like I stole her thunder, nor did I intend to by wearing my ring. I wore it because I'm engaged, so that's what you do. Matt then accused, I knew it. Listen to this. Matt then accused me of embarrassing her by wearing my colossally large ring when I knew Rachel's wouldn't be anywhere near as big, and intentionally showing him up in front of the family. I knew that's what this really was about. He even went on about the other jewelry I wore. Oh dear Lord. I can understand wanting to get your partner everything, right? And not being able to do that, not being able to provide, that would probably bother you quite a bit. Let's also not forget the fact that not everybody can afford a colossally large ring. Not everybody wants a colossally large ring. At the end of the day, an engagement ring symbolizes a promise. And it really shouldn't matter how big it is. It really shouldn't. Is that what you're reducing this to? My stepdad called them both stupid for their outburst. My stepbrother said there's no way I could have known that's how they'd feel. It's not like they asked me not to wear it. That's a good point. But also, even if they did ask you not to wear it, you better wear it. My mom says while she knows I didn't do it deliberately, she can see where Rachel is coming from since everyone preferred my ring to hers. Everybody else there shouldn't have compared the two. I feel like the a-holes here are the ones that were at the party, the family and friends, that were kind of making, you know, Rachel and Matt feel weird about the fact that they had a smaller ring. You should never be like, oh, mine's bigger, hee hee.
Men do it all the time.
There should have never been like comparisons. She also said that given my ring is quite unique, I should have considered it would draw attention. I'm sorry, honey. That's the point of engagement rings. Not the a-hole. You are engaged. It is normal for you to wear your ring, especially at family occasions. Yes, especially when you're dressing up and wearing nice jewelry and nice clothes and stuff, like New Year's Eve. What's next? Can you not bring your husband to their wedding because any reminder that anyone else has gotten married would be upstaging their day? This just sounds like they are like a little bit insecure and jealous. Getting married is not about the ring size. It's not about, you know, all these superficial things. It's supposed to be about two people getting engaged because they love each other and want to spend the rest of their lives. Why are we like placing so much importance on a ring size? Everybody at this party remove your rings so only Rachel's ring shines. Oh, and Merry Christmas.
You filthy animal.
God, that is the most Delulu thing. Is that honestly what she expects? Imagine that was like a thing. Oh, I got engaged, so I need you to take off your engagement ring so that it doesn't upstage mine. I've said this once before and I will say it again. Normalize being happy for other people. Stop comparing what you have to what someone else has, okay? It doesn't help anybody. Woman demands a refund from her wedding photographer after she got divorced. Isn't this a fun one? Oh boy. Hot diggity dog. Starting things off hot today. Diggity diggity doogity dog. Hi Romeo. How are you? Question mark. I don't know if you still remember me. You did a photo shoot for me at my wedding in Durban in 2019. Hey, I'm okay, thank you. Trust you're well. Yes, I remember. How may I be of service? Well, I'm now divorced, and those pictures, I and my ex-husband don't need them anymore. And you did a wonderful job on them, but they went to waste as we are now divorced. I will need a refund on the amount we paid you because we don't need them anymore. Pardon me? This has to be a joke, right? No, a big fat no. Imagine life worked like that, eh? God, I need a refund on the last 4 years of my life. Can I have that back, please? I demand it. I'm sorry, do you have a receipt? No, dear. I'm very serious. I'm very sorry to hear that you and your husband are divorced, but as I'm sure you can figure that out, that's not gonna happen. Photography is a non-refundable service once I've already delivered to you the service and the pictures. I can't refund you because I can't untake the pictures. Take care. Is she, first of all, is she okay? And second of all, is she like going around to all the vendors or just the photographer? Because like, that is something you must have in your contract, that no refunds. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But you didn't, so I'm entitled to demand a refund as I'm no longer in need of your pictures. Yeah, but you already have them. You literally already have them. I understand it's not your fault, but you're a business, and as such, you must be able to grant refunds. Get out of here. You're joking. That's funny. You're funny. No, ma'am. You're not entitled to a refund. I would like to remain professional with you and just reassure you that you will not be getting a refund. It's bad enough you want a refund 4 years later. It's unfortunately embarrassing on your part, literally. So there'll be no refund. Okay, thanks. Take care now. You will be hearing from my lawyer. I forwarded him everything. Sharp. Oh yeah, good luck with that, eh? Good luck. Lol, I'm sure I'm still being pranked. There's no way. Look, I really sympathize with you on the divorce. Yeah, okay, this woman is obviously in a lot of pain, but I'm not exactly surprised either. I can imagine what you went through, but this is not the ideal way to deal with it. On the other hand, there's really nothing more I can do for you. Good morning, Romeo. It's fine. Then let our lawyers deal with it. At least refund of 70% of the money and I can move on and heal from everything. It's not the photographer's fault that you got divorced! Where are you? I'm in Joburg. Can we meet and discuss this issue? Wait forward. No, we can't. No. Absolutely not. No. No. Tell your lawyer to call me. It doesn't work like that. Ever. All right. Is it even possible that this bride could get a refund on that? I don't even know. Like, if there was nothing in the contract about no refunds, like, it kind of might be. That's the fricked up thing. Like, it actually might be possible. But the fact that the Bridezilla is actually taking it upon herself to contact every vendor, like, literal small businesses, and ask for a refund. Oh, buddy. Like, no. The venue, dress shop, and caterer also owe her a refund, but she's keeping the wedding gifts because they were gifts after all. Oh, I bet. She gonna give those back? How about the money? McDonald's, I'm on a diet, so you need to refund my money on all the food I bought from you last year. True. I want a refund on my kids' baby pictures. They've grown up now and aren't babies anymore. I can see why she got divorced. Literally, like, I didn't want to say it. I did say it, kind of. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I did, though. I really did. Hello, I ate at your restaurant yesterday, but I took a massive today. I would like a refund as the food is no longer inside me. The worst part is, even if that one is just a joke, I strongly believe it has happened to someone somewhere. Oh my goodness. I don't miss this. At all. I've never been asked to give refunds on a wedding shoot because the couple got divorced. I feel like most people have enough common sense to not do that because that is like hella embarrassing. Like, budding photographers, please make sure that you have a no refunds policy and a non-refundable deposit in your contracts and your terms of service, because people will take advantage of you and they will take you to court. Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister-in-law use my wedding dress for her wedding even though she can't afford one? My younger brother and his fiance are supposed to get married in the spring after being engaged for about a year. My younger brother's always been the golden child between the two of us, to my mom, not my dad. Him and his fiance currently live with her, rent-free, I might add. My dad and I, on the other hand, have mixed feelings about this wedding. We both feel like my brother is rushing into things and not being financially smart. He just finished his bachelor's program a year ago and is still trying to get on his feet and find a good full-time job in his field, and decides to spend thousands of dollars on a wedding. By all means, elope. If you want to get married, you don't need a big wedding, but you need to be financially stable and be able to afford a wedding before you can have one. We sat him down and explained this to him and asked him what the rush was. Why not put it off for a few years and save up so they can really have the wedding of their dreams? He explained to us that his fiance wants the wedding as soon as possible and doesn't want to wait. Why is that? His fiance's family is pitching in a couple thousand for the wedding. My dad reluctantly is pitching in a couple thousand as well. All important later. A few nights ago, I'm eating dinner with my husband when I get a call from my future sister-in-law. Convo starts our normal, hey, how are you? Crappy weather we're having, etc., until she tells me she has a serious question to ask me. She asks if she can use my wedding dress. Oh my goodness. That I wore to my wedding just over a year ago. Never ever ask this. Like, okay, I understand wanting to wear your mother's wedding dress or maybe your grandmother's wedding dress, someone in your family, okay? Like, that's normal. Lots of people repurpose wedding dresses and update them. But this is weird. This is what I would call weird. She explains she can't afford one herself and she loves mine and that it would be her something borrowed. Oh, isn't that convenient? Uh-oh. I immediately shut her down and said, I'm sorry, but no, this is a $1,000 wedding dress we're talking about. And she would have to get it altered to fit her too. So there's no way. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow. So she's essentially asking to just completely ruin your wedding dress and to wear it. We're not even close at all and barely talk. So like, WTF? I agree. That's so weird. She starts begging and even starts crying, going on and on about how she can't afford one. I told her I'm sorry, but no. Then she starts going on about how I'm not financially helping her and my brother paid for the wedding, so at least I can do is let her use my dress. No. Absolutely not. No. I told her the honest truth that I think they're rushing into having a wedding and not being financially smart. Literally, like, this is why you need to wait to be able to afford the wedding that you want. Don't make everybody around you pay for the wedding you want and lend you their wedding dresses. No. Go to frickin' Value Village and learn how to sew and repurpose a wedding dress yourself. She said she didn't care. She has a timeline and wants to be married by 25. Okay, well then, like, figure it out, dude. I basically said to her she made her bed, so now she has to lie in it and figure it out herself. And if she can't afford her wedding dress, then she shouldn't be having a wedding. Simple as that. She ran to my mom and my brother to tell them what I said. They think I'm an a-hole because I have the money to financially help my brother and his fiance, but I'm being selfish and unsupportive. They also think it's just a dress, so what's the big deal? It is a big deal! It's a big deal! It's your wedding dress! No! Mine! He's mine! My dad is on my side, defending me, and is now thinking of taking back his financial help due to the sheer audacity of my brother's fiance asking me for such a thing. I have a different opinion of this because, I would probably help, but I wouldn't give her my wedding dress. Like, I'm in a better financial situation, so it's like, okay, my brother's getting married, it doesn't have to be $1,000, $2,000 wedding dress. My really good friend found a white dress that's an amazing dress that isn't expensive at all, or you can rent a wedding dress. There's plenty of options for people who can't afford it. But the difference is that this bride doesn't want just any wedding dress. She wants her wedding dress, her sister-in-law's wedding dress. No, I would never let anyone do that ever, except for my own daughter. Not the a-hole. Tell her to use a sack of flour as a dress if she wants to get married so badly. The entitlement, Jesus freaking Christ. Yeah, there's plenty of options. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles. I think it's super freaking cool to wear a white suit to your wedding. You don't have to have a princess dress or just buy a cheap dress, literally. Period, babe. I don't know why so many people get engaged and then immediately jump to the only worthwhile wedding dress must cost thousands of dollars. It doesn't have to. There's plenty of amazing white dresses out there that don't cost that much amount of money. Sites like Lulu's sells absolutely gorgeous wedding dresses that are very affordable. My wedding dress was from Lulu's and cost $180, maybe less than that. I don't judge anyone for having an expensive wedding dress. More power to you. But if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. And in that case, there are so many other options that will still look stunning. I got married in this dress, less than $50. It looked gorgeous. There are all kinds of options for all kinds of budgets. Let me see. I want to see the dress. Beautiful! That's a beautiful dress. Ay vey. You're not the a-hole, my dear. Stand your ground. The bride kicked me out of the wedding for trying to steal her thunder. This happened years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. Sorry, it's really long. Before freshman year of college, I decided to move in with two of my best friends, Nikki and Dan, who became engaged that summer. I was so excited for them because I'd been friends with them since middle school and we all worked together at the same store. So her and Dan had decided early November to move their wedding up a year because they didn't want to wait and essentially had everything planned. When they told me, I had mentioned how I was planning on moving out once they got married so they could have their privacy, which was the original deal when we moved in together. This is when things started to splinter. On the day we went to pick out the wedding dress and bridesmaids' dresses, Nikki informed me that her other friend was going to be the maid of honor and that I would still be in the party and get to walk down the aisle with Dan's brother, who said she was way cuter than the best man anyway, so I was lucky. I was hurt at the time but understood because it was her wedding day and her final say. I ended up paying the deposit on all the dresses that day because the loan they took out wouldn't be deposited for a couple of weeks, and I had just come into some money from an inheritance. Funny how she totally was fine with you paying for things, but didn't consider you her maid of honor. At some point, I had asked her for the contact information of the other bridesmaids because they were all friends from her hometown, and I didn't know them at all. She asked me why. I told her because the bridesmaids sometimes plan the bridal shower and the bachelorette party, and I wanted to help out. She got upset and refused. I dropped the subject because I had to get to class. One night soon after, I was at a party at a friend's house and Nikki called me because she was mad about wedding stuff. I don't remember a lot about our conversation except she was mad at me and told me I was trying to steal her thunder by trying to plan events without her. Meaning the bridal shower and the bachelorette party. No, that's not... No, like you're... Like that's kind of, that is, I think traditionally what bridesmaids are supposed to do. Like if you're invited to the bachelorette party, the friends, they plan, you know, the bridal shower, the bachelorette party. So it's not as much work for the bride. Some brides like to be, you know, in charge of those things. I'm going on a bachelorette trip this week and we pretty much planned the whole thing. She picked the place, but we planned everything we did. So I hadn't, since I didn't have anyone's numbers, and if I had, I would make sure she was involved. She kept yelling at me and accused me of constantly dangling the money card since I paid for the dresses. What an ungrateful little butthead. Again, I hadn't brought it up except for once to find out how I was getting paid back. I told her it's her wedding and her special day, and to prove that I'm not trying to steal her thunder, I didn't even have to be in the wedding party if she didn't want to be. So she agreed and I was out. Tensions were high at the apartment. Oh gosh, oh right, I keep forgetting that you live with this person. I tried to be cordial with them, mostly Dan because he was on the outside of the beef. I went to visit my family in Minnesota over Thanksgiving spring break. While we were in the Mall of America, I got a call from Nikki telling me that I owed her $80 for my dress. No, I'm not in the party anymore. I'm not paying for a dress I'm not gonna wear. She told me that was my problem. When I got back home, I'm sorry, what? When I got back home, I went to the bridal shop to cancel my dress. They asked me, and I remember this very clearly, just this one dress. And I responded, yes, just the one. What happened next? I don't know if it's the bridal shop's fault or my roommate made it up as an excuse to yell at me again. But a few days later, I get a call from Dan telling me that he and Nikki need to talk to me now. So I drive home, they're sitting across from me interrogation style. I have no clue what is happening. They proceed to tell me that somehow their entire order for dresses was canceled and they had not reached out to them. The wedding dress and all the bridesmaids' dresses would be put back on the rack. I told them what had happened, and when I went to cancel my dress, and I only got a refund for my one dress. I don't know how the error occurred, even if it did, but it wasn't me. At that point, I started sleeping at my parents' house because it was only about 20 minutes to school and I didn't want to deal with Nikki or Dan. I heard they started spreading rumors about me, saying I came home blackout drunk and they have to carry me up the apartment and just leave me in the bathroom. I drank, but I had never been wasted. Or that I had random guys over all the time. This is freaking weird, dude. What is happening here? As the wedding approached, mutual friend suggested I offer an olive branch because we may be fighting right now, but we may make up. And this is one of those lifetime memories. So I messaged Nikki the day before the wedding and asked her if I was still welcome. She agreed I could come. The day was chaotic for me and I ended up getting to church about 10 minutes before the ceremony was supposed to start. When I opened the door, the groomsmen, all of whom I went to high school with and had friends, stopped me and told me that I wasn't welcome and asked me to leave. Bro, what is happening here? Are a bunch of children holding a wedding? Like literally, what is happening? Apparently Dan and Nikki thought I was gonna try something to ruin their wedding, then why were you invited? Honestly, I suffer from too much guilt and anxiety to do something that cruel. I wish I was that petty. I'm only petty enough to post this story to Reddit. I'm glad you did, babe. But my petty patience was rewarded when they contacted me multiple times after I officially moved out to help with rent because the apartment complex found out about the pets they kept secret. They asked you to pay their rent? And more importantly, they got divorced 6 months into marriage. Guess I should have stopped the wedding after all. Oh, well. A lot of people are commenting about the ages. Yeah, I'm like, this sounds like a couple of kids that are getting married that don't have fully developed cerebral cortexes. I agree they should have waited, but we were from a small town. It was common for 18 and 19-year-olds to get married right out of high school. It didn't seem odd. Also, I didn't add this to the story because it didn't have to do with the wedding, but after I finally found a new apartment, I came to get my things and found they moved all my stuff into the spare room where they kept the pets, and they let them piss all over it. Suffice to say, I left all the spoiled items behind. And no, I never paid them any additional money, period. Even though my name was still on the lease and I was legally obligated to, they gave up pretty fast. Oh, geez. First comment is, didn't see that divorce coming. Nope, not at all. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. I don't mean to laugh, but I do. The audacity to ask you for more money after they tried to ruin your reputation is next level! Over the top! Am I the a-hole for telling people not to eat the food at my sister's wedding? My husband, 27 male, and I, 26 female, were married 8 months ago. We had a big wedding with lots of food and drinks and people. I knew we would likely have leftovers, so had arranged them to be donated to the soup kitchen we sometimes work with. That is very nice of you. I feel like more people should do that. However, my mom went behind my back and took most of it with her. I didn't really know what happened with the food. Where's this going? Is it going where I think it's going?
I think it is.
Is it?
Until now. My sister Callie got married over the long weekend. She didn't want to mess with any of the planning, and knowing how my mom was during my wedding, decided to let her mom take over the whole thing. All we had to do was show up where we were told and party. The ceremony was beautiful, but it was when the buffet was revealed I noticed something odd. Oh, it is going there, isn't it? Oh, we are gonna go there, aren't we? Did anyone else just get like salivaty? You know, when you like feel kind of sick and then your body prepares you to be sick and it like coats your esophagus and your mouth in saliva? That's what just happened to me. The food looked eerily familiar, like identical to what I had for my wedding, except a little more dried out and sad. Me, I'm the food. That's my impression. Pretty good though, right?
No, that was awful. I hate it when you make noises, Charlotte. You don't have an accent. Stop pretending you have an accent.
You're sounding a lot like the people in my comments. Are you just my troll from now on?
Yes.
I'm bigger than you. And I also control you, by the way. You are nothing without me. You're just a plastic stick.
Well, you're just an actress that nobody wanted to hire.
All right, okay, you're gonna go in the drawer.
Get me out of here.
I don't think I will. I found an opening and went to ask my mom about it, where she happily told me she saved a fortune. You won't save a fortune when you get sued. That'll be a fortune. By unfreezing the food from my wedding to serve to the guests now. I was horrified and immediately voiced my concerns about safety. She got upset and said I was acting like a snob and should be happy the food wasn't going to waste. I argued that it was never going to be wasted, but she wouldn't hear it. I didn't want to make a scene, but I was worried about people getting sick, so I snuck off to see my sister. She was horribly embarrassed, mentioned that mom said something about saving money, but didn't question it because she didn't want to foot the bill like I had. She told me not to eat the food and thanked me for the warning. From there, my husband and I discreetly started telling some guests to be weary of the food, and the rest of the night was fine. Can we just like order pizza? My mom caught some flack for being chic, but I've also been catching heat. Some of our relatives have been saying that I intentionally made my family look bad. If you don't want to look bad, don't do bad things, or I'll put you in the drawer. The food was fine and it was frozen and then defrosted for the wedding. They said no one would have known if I didn't make a stink over it. I think I would want to know if the food I was eating was frozen and then defrosted, especially if it's like already cooked meat.
That is disgusting.
That food was probably sitting out at your wedding for a few hours, and like if it's not eaten that night, then like, I don't know, maybe it was safe. I'm not an expert. Would it have been safe? I'm curious to know how you guys feel about this. I don't know if I did anything wrong. I could use some help and would like to know if I should apologize. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, OMG. It's not that it was stored frozen for 8 months. It's that it sat on a buffet table for God knows how long at your wedding, then your mother's car before it was frozen. This is not only tacky, but super dangerous. This is what I'm saying. It would be one thing if it was like uncooked meat, like you didn't get around to cooking it, you stored it in the freezer, but this was already out and probably like the microbes, the bacteria. My mom told me when I was growing up, I always got these 24-hour flus. I remember them throwing up, unable to eat, miserable.
It makes you a normal human adult.
Sounds like what I had a couple months ago. It wasn't until I grew up that I realized what it actually was: food poisoning. She poisoned me many times by serving expired, dented, damaged food. She leaves food out for extended times, reheats multiple times, whatever. If it saves 10 cents, it doesn't matter if it tastes off. Just scrape the fuzzy stuff off. Oh, not the fuzzies! The only time when it's okay to scrape the fuzzies off is like on cheese.
Cheese.
You know, just like cut around it. What am I admitting to exactly? No, you can do that, right? All right, you're not the a-hole, my dear. You should be happy that you saved your mom from a lot of potential lawsuits. It's totally possible to cut corners at a wedding and like find cheaper ways to have food. Like people can cook things. If there's only 50 people, you can make some casseroles or something. Get some pizza, some crowd pleasers, some tacos. Tacos are a good crowd pleaser. You don't need to unfreeze 8-month-old wedding food. I don't want to eat that. Fellow brides, my maid of honor has just announced that she is pregnant and she's due around my wedding day. Her and her husband have been trying for a while and I would like to feel happy for her, but I'm seriously considering kicking her out of the wedding. Oh God, you should. Ugh, pregnant women are just so selfish. I feel she has deliberately done this to take the attention away from me.
I hate it when they do that.
Why are there so many people that feel this way, honestly? Do Bridezillas just expect everybody around them to not consummate for like the entire year before their wedding?
Stop being pregnant.
You know what? I'm gonna start being pregnant even harder.
The only problem is she's my sister, and my parents are telling me to postpone the wedding for her. I'm not postponing my day as we've had the venue booked since November 2022. Even my fiance's taking her side. Am I being dramatic? Can you get your deposit back? If you can't get the deposit back, I would say just go ahead with it. But if you can get the deposit back, just see if you can get a later date. Holy moly, please take the deposit for your wedding and invest in a therapist. It's gonna be a couple $1,000 to deal with that, I'm not gonna lie. It'll work out perfectly. I'm a maid of honor in my friend's wedding. She goes by her middle name, which is Rachel. My first name is Rachel. I'm honestly unsure how to answer. Like, ma'am, I'm not changing my name for your wedding.
How could you do this to me?
So we've been friends forever, right? Good. I just have one request for you as my maid of honor. Change your name, please. You know, it just keeps getting crazier. Just when I think that I've seen it all, I see something like this. There can only be one Rachel on my big day.
I think I'm probably just gonna hang out in my room.
Oh, you're hella delulu, eh? Is this a joke? Like, are we joking? Because that's really funny. That's a really funny joke.
Do you find it usable?
I hope it's a joke. For your sake, I hope it's a joke or you're going in the drawer. Oh, look who has escaped. Bottom, bottom. Bottom, 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 bottom.
There can only be one Bridezilla, and it's me.
You're the OG, don't worry. So this was a wedding booked by the young lady in the back wiping a tear. The bride was on a low budget and that's her best friend. She wanted to have quality photos of her special day. Well, the one on her phone is the husband's sister. She's on her phone the whole ceremony. Do I deliver these? My husband looked at me crazy when I said I was going to, but what do I do? Only deliver pictures of the groom's side? Doesn't seem fitting. Thoughts? That is just like, come on, man. After a certain point, being on your phone is straight up disrespectful. Like, you can't not look at your phone for 20 minutes to watch your brother get married. Personally, this is something to me that she's doing on purpose. And to answer your question, I would say you should deliver what you have so that the bride knows exactly what was going on. I would want to know if that was what's happening behind me. See if there's a way to Photoshop her out. I think that there probably is. Like, I could do a quick, let me just see. You can watch me live Photoshop. You You get the point. So you essentially stamp it until you get rid of that person. And that was like a 30-second job. Obviously, I'm not like tooting my horn or anything. I'm not that good at Photoshop. You've seen my thumbnails. They're awful. But you get my point. Am I the a-hole for stopping payment on a large check I wrote for my husband's cousin as a wedding gift? I, 28 female, and my husband, 29, have been invited to his cousin's wedding about 6 months ago. All the guests were required to get them gifts either beforehand on the registry or upon arrival. I went to the wedding registry and they had a lot of expensive things, the cheapest being around $150. My husband and I are very well off and his cousin is aware. His cousin and I were also friends for 10 years, so I know she's into the finer things. The wedding was mid-December, and when we arrived, she asked us why we didn't buy anything from the registry when everyone else did, and why we had such a small box in our hand before greeting us. Oh, that's weird. I'm telling you, there are expensive things that come in small packages.
Those look pretty big to me, above average.
I was taken aback. I told her we had something special for her and she would appreciate it far more than the material things we saw on the registry. She laughed and said it was funny how we probably had the most money but decided to be cheap a-holes. She made a scene and it was hella awkward. Oh, absolutely not. At least open the gift first. Seriously? In the little box was a letter and an envelope with a $15,000 check to help her and her husband on their infertility issue. Holy shit. That is probably one of the most thoughtful gifts I've ever heard of. That's insane to me. I would be really pissed off too. Imagine the amount of thought and care that was put into this gift. And for her to just like insult you before she even looked at it or found out what it was, it's like, bro.
Shame.
They've been trying for years and were informed the treatment would be around $10,000. My husband and I paid it together because we know how much that would mean. Plus, it was well in our budget. We added the extra $5K just to make life a little easier because we know they've been struggling financially since the pandemic. Well, aren't you the nicest, most thoughtful person? Anywho, after causing a scene, she ripped the box out of my hand and left. My husband and I walked out and quickly canceled the check. Good. After realizing what was in the box, she apologized for embarrassing us and kicking us out. She kicked you out? When she tried to deposit it, it obviously didn't work. She's been blowing up our phone saying how awful we are and how we're taking away her dream to start a family. No, listen, see, look around and find out. We do not reward bad behavior in this house, and you should not in your house either. Although some people say we aren't a-holes and she isn't entitled to our money, others say we are and need to give it back to her because we can afford it too while they can't. Saying we are rubbing our wealth in her face, which isn't true. No, I'm sorry, she insulted you. We've always been very generous to her. So then why did she say that you're being cheap? This is the thing about being generous. It's like once you start being really generous, people really rely on your generosity and they start to expect it. Never expect generosity from anyone. Never expect a friend to pay for your drinks. Never expect them to pay for your food. Never expect them to give you a $15,000 check after you insult them and kick them out of your wedding.
Come on.
Although I feel bad, I'm disgusted by her reaction and refuse to have a relationship with someone who's clearly in our lives for money. This is what I'm saying. Money makes people crazy, man. Here is where I might be the a-hole though. I can be a little petty. What'd you do? What'd you do, babe? So I donated about the same amount of money to a charity helping with girls' education around the world and posted it on Facebook. My husband also shared my post. We have pettiness in common. Oh gosh. Oh yes. True love is petty love, isn't it? You know you found your petty partner when you can be petty together. She's pissed and so is my husband's family. Why does it make her so upset that you're giving money to a charity? You're just being charitable.
You think this is funny?
Not the a-hole. I was a bit torn here because you'd already given her the gift, but I mean, she ripped it out of your hand, so that does change things. And $10,000 is a lot of money. She was ridiculously rude. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It's incredibly rude to mock someone because a present isn't as big as they believe it should be. And even now she can't see she brought this about. You're better off without her in your life, period. The Karen of all Bridezillas. I am a church organist in a large metropolitan area. Pre-COVID, I would play for approximately 50 weddings every year, with my career total being 488 weddings. It is safe to say I've seen my fair share of difficult brides, along with crazy mothers of the bride and a few downright train wrecks. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for this one. Buckling up, strap yourself in. Yes, good to go. The wedding was at a church where I'm employed as the full-time organist. The senior pastor was out of town for a family reunion that weekend, planned several years ago, and arranged for the pastor friend of his from another church in the area to be the officiant. Officiante. In French, if you will. Parlez-vous français, Charlotte? No, I do not. Sorry. That said, the bride's family are members of the church, and my understanding is that the mother of bride couldn't believe that the pastor would not cancel his plans to officiate at their wedding, but eventually let it go and moved on to bigger things. I feel like people have better things to do than worry about other people's weddings. It's just funny to me how people think that they're like literally the center of the universe the entire year that they're getting married. Like, people really do have the mentality of it's not just like one day that you get, it's the whole year. No, bestie, you get one day, maybe two with, you know, like a bachelorette or engagement party or whatever. As the organist, never go to the wedding rehearsal. However, church wedding coordinator had let me know that the bride was insisting that I be there. Do you get paid for this? Or are you just like, this is just something that you do out of the goodness of your heart? The coordinator let her know that there would be an additional fee for me to attend, okay, the rehearsal, and that I would only be there from 5 to 6 p.m. as I had another obligation that evening. Well, at least you're getting paid, babe. The bride said that would be fine, accepted the additional fee for my services at her rehearsal. Rehearsal day rolls around. I arrived at the church at 4:45 p.m. There were 3 cars in the parking lot, mine, the church wedding coordinator, and the one that I did not recognize. I walked through the sanctuary doors and noticed that there was a woman at the altar putting flowers and candles out. What? What happened? Where is everybody? Where is everybody? She was wearing a skin-tight, strapless dress, high heels, hair all blown out, and makeup so thick it probably would have taken a paint scraper to peel it off her. And a surgical bandage would have had more fabric than her dress did. As I walked to the organ, I stopped and said, "Hi, you must be the bride. I'm..." and I'm the organist. She stopped what she was doing, looked at me and said, quote,
"Are you freaking kidding me? I'm the mother of the bride, and I go to church here. I know who you are."
Okay, settle down, I feel like that's a compliment, like you saying that she looks like, you know, she's getting married, she's young and getting married. I don't know, what's the, hold your horses there, mother. Relax. I was so taken by surprise at her Christian greeting. Yeah, it's not very Christian of you. We're in a church, okay? Ma'am, we are in a church. God is watching. Jesus, look, it's Jesus. I was so taken by surprise at her Christian greeting that I simply replied with an, "Oh, I apologize." She sighed in disgust and told me she didn't have time for small talk, so I went to the organ to wait for the rehearsal to begin. The coordinator came in a minute or two later and we had our typical small talk, and I shared with her about my interaction with the mother of the bride. She rolled her eyes and said, "Just wait. I have a feeling this is gonna get good." Oh, I'm glad you're thinking about it that way. I'm glad you're thinking about it that way as like, oh, this is gonna be fun. Oh, this'll be good. This'll be fun. Something to tell the kids one day. 5 p.m. comes, and the only other people who were on time were the pastor, the parents of the bride and groom, the grandmothers, the groom, and his groomsmen. 5:15, we're still waiting. The mother of the bride kept telling everyone to be patient and that she was on the way. The coordinator reminded her that I would be leaving at 6 p.m., as would the pastor, as he was contracted for an hour rehearsal. I wonder why the original pastor refused to change his plans for this particular family. I was wondering, and now I'm not. The mother insisted that the hour started from when the rehearsal began. No, it doesn't work that way, bestie. It doesn't. At which time the coordinator whipped out the contract and advised her to read it over again. Love a contract. Love a good contract. She backed out and called her daughter and told her to speed up. It's funny how people will literally push any boundary unless it's in writing and in a contract. Oh, no, sorry. I can sue you if you push my boundaries, so you better not. I love it. I love that kind of power. I love power! A few minutes later, the bride and her bridal party arrived. The bride and her mother could have been identical twins. Also arriving with her was her wedding coordinator, who immediately started taking over. Now let me stop and say that this is a big no-no at the church. The requirement is that the church wedding coordinator deals with all the details relating to the service being held at the church. The contract states that they are welcome to use a wedding coordinator of their choosing to coordinate all other aspects of the wedding outside of the church ceremony. But the church has a full-time wedding coordinator who will take care of all of those details. The bride and her mother, had met with the church wedding coordinator on multiple occasions, so they were aware of this policy. The church wedding coordinator immediately stepped in and explained to the other coordinator that she would be assuming all responsibilities related to the coordination of the wedding at the church. There was a little back and forth between the two, but the other coordinator eventually backed down and said she would be glad to help in any way she could. Hey, you sit down. At this point, point. It's about 5:40 p.m. Okay. And we are just finally getting the rehearsal started. Coordinator got everyone lined up and in their places, and it was time to begin practicing the processional. An usher begins to bring the grandmother of the groom down the aisle, who is in a wheelchair. The bride immediately stops the seating and says the grandmother will not be seated during the processional because she refused to have her roll down the aisle in a wheelchair. So what did she expect her to do? She needed to walk down on the usher's arm, or she needed to be seated before the ceremony began. The groom did speak up and tell his fiancée that was not right. Good. So that was his grandmother, not hers. Yeah, I would take issue with that too. He wanted his grandmother seated during the seating of the family. The groom's mother also spoke up and said her mother would be seated just like the bride's grandmother would be seated, and the mother of the bride got involved. And let's just say there was a little argument taking place between the two mothers, the bride and the groom. Yes, and the clock is ticking. The pastor finally got involved and said, let's discuss this following the rehearsal, and we moved on. It came time for the wedding party to process in. Process? To process? I feel like procession, right? Yes, okay. And the 12 bridesmaids and 12 groomsmen. The 4 flower girls and 2 ring bearers were in place without incident. I started the music for the bride and her father to enter. No enter. Okay. Now, I will say that the aisle in the church is very, very long. But at the same time, I could not figure out why it was taking the bride so long to make it to the front. As I look out, I notice it is because she's taking selfies of herself. Oh, sorry, let me just pause everything I'm doing and be late for my next engagement because you need to take a selfie.
But first, let me take a selfie.
There'll be plenty of selfies on the day of the wedding, my dear. Plenty of time for selfies on the day of the wedding. She and Daddy would take a few steps, stop, and she would snap a picture. Okay, no, this is not what a rehearsal is for. We do not snap pictures in the middle of a rehearsal. And this went on and on. She finally made it to the front, only to say that she wanted to practice the entire processional again. The pastor said no, she could practice it at the end of the rehearsal if needed, but we needed to move on. The bride raised a major hissy fit, as did her mother. So we did the whole thing a second time, minus the grandmother in the wheelchair. The second time took longer than the first. The same story. The bride took selfies all the way down the aisle. Is she gonna do that on the wedding day? You're not come on, just put the phone down, okay? That's why you get a photographer. Everybody's gonna be taking pictures of you. You don't need to take a selfie while you're walking down the aisle, you psycho. At this point, it is 5 minutes after 6, 5 minutes longer than I was supposed to be there. I turned the organ off, closed the lid, locked the organ, and got up to leave. The church wedding coordinator waved goodbye, and I told her I would see her tomorrow. The mother of the bride jumps out of her chair and comes charging at me and grabs my arm and asks me where I'm going. It is very clear to me why the pastor did not want to be here for this. I told her that the contract ended at 6 p.m. and I was going to another obligation that evening. She proceeds to tell me what an unprofessional person I am for leaving the rehearsal when it's not finished. And she would make sure that everyone in the church knew how I disrespected her daughter and her family at this special event. Something tells me that the church is aware that you disrespect everyone on a daily basis, so I don't think that will matter. I think you've got a reputation, honey. You are not to be believed at this point. She proceeded to tell me she would make sure the staff parish relations committee was aware of my rudeness and to not be surprised if I did not have a job next week. I looked at her, smiled, and did my nicest voice and said, that is a risk I'm willing to take. I will see you tomorrow. Through all of this craziness, I forgot there was a soloist who I was supposed to meet at the rehearsal. Yet in the hour I was there, he never showed up. The church wedding coordinator phoned me around 8 p.m. and simply said that I had left way too early because things got good and heated. It's like, girl, you should have stayed for this. You should have stayed for this catastrophe. It was a joy to witness. She then said she would fill me in the next day. She also said the soloist arrived an hour and a half late. They agreed to arrive an hour before the service the next day so we could run through the music. And then she told me who the soloist was. The soloist had been a contestant on one of the hit TV music competition shows and had won the competition last season. The bride and the soloist had gone to high school together. I thanked the coordinator for calling me, and that was that. Fast forward to the next day, the wedding day. I arrived an hour before the ceremony began, per usual, and the soloist was there along with their agent. I introduced myself to the soloist, and they were actually very friendly and down to earth. We ran through their solos one time and everything came together beautifully. beautifully. Right, because that's what professionals do. The soloist sits down next to me at the organ, and we had a nice conversation before it was time to start the prelude music. We talked a little about their appearance on television and how their life had changed since winning the competition, just very nice small talk. I asked how they knew the bride, and they told me they went to high school together. Oh. And then they said, I can't believe she asked me to sing at her wedding because she was the biggest bitch to me throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school. Why did you agree, bestie? Why did you say yes? Tell me you're gonna f that up on purpose. You're gonna start singing like, what could she start singing in the middle of it? Like, what would be the perfect thing? Like a funeral procession or something. Plus, they were next door neighbors for 10 years. The bride and her mother had apparently bullied the soloist and their family the entire time they were neighbors. I asked the soloist why they agreed to sing at their wedding after all of the drama that had gone down between the two of them, and their response was simple. I'm getting paid. I can play nice with her for the right amount of money. Oh, okay, yes, boss bitch. Love a queen. I don't know if I would ever do that for, like, I don't know. I feel like, yeah. It depends on the amount of money, to be honest. It would have to be a pretty high number for me to do anything for someone who bullied me in school. We had a good chuckle. So me being nosy, I asked what it would cost someone to hire them to sing at their wedding. Their agent told me the bride's mother paid for the soloist and agent to fly halfway across the United States from Los Angeles, 2 nights of hotel accommodations at a downtown 5-star hotel, transportation while in town, and meals, plus the cost of their performance at the wedding. While she did not give me a grand total, the wedding performance alone for 2 songs was $2,500. That's not enough, babes. I'm sorry, but that's not enough. Seriously? Come on. That might be a lot of money for some people, but like, you had to sing at your bully's wedding. That's gotta be 6 figures at least. Like, I'm sorry. The soloist told me the bride had been able to track them down through some mutual high school acquaintances, and when they finally connected, you would have thought they'd been best friends their entire life. It's so funny. I feel like you could have asked for more, honestly. Like, that's not enough. No way. It's wedding time. The ceremony began on time. Grandmother actually came down the aisle in her wheelchair, and the bride made her entrance with no selfies taken on her way down the aisle. Her father handed her off to her future husband, and they moved into the altar area for the ceremony. As the service moved forward, the soloist leaned to me and said, "Is it me, or is her cell phone sticking out of the top of her dress?" Actually, put it down! Put it on airplane mode, girl! You're getting married! Who could you possibly need to be connecting to that isn't at your wedding right now? Why, yes it was. She packed her cell phone into her bra. Here's the bride, dolled up to the hills, looking as if it had taken her days to get her hair and makeup done just right. Gorgeous and obviously very expensive dress, and her cell phone stuck between her 2 boobs. Lord almighty, that's just comical. I couldn't help but laugh because the photographer is taking pictures of this the entire time, and I'm not sure the bride realized that you could see her phone, but I am sure they made for some beautiful wedding portraits.
Wow.
Wow. Well, I feel like she'll learn her lesson. Even if it was stuffed all the way down, you still have like a square right here, you know? There's only so much Photoshop can fix. The ceremony concluded, the bride and groom started to walk out, and it was a repeat of the night before. She whipped out that cell phone and started taking selfies all the way down the aisle. Oh God, have some decorum, please. We are in church. Look. That is Jesus.
I can't do it anymore.
It was ridiculous. The bridal party exited, and then it was time for the parents of the bride and groom to leave. The groom's parents exited without incidents. The bride's parents started walking down the aisle, and the bride's mother starts taking selfies just like her daughter.
Can you guys help me pick a filter?
Lord. A few steps down, and she would take a picture, a few more steps, another picture. After about 3 starts and stops, her husband just kept going down the aisle without her! She was anything but happy about it. She charges after him in the aisle to catch up, only to have the heel of her shoe snap. Oh no, oh, how horrible. And she just about took a nosedive straight into the floor. She caught herself and managed to get out of the sanctuary without a broken nose. After the guests had left, the bridal party returned to the sanctuary for some photos. I'm packing up my things to leave, and the soloist agent approached the bride and told her she needed to delete the video on her phone of the soloist performance, or she risked legal action, because the contract she signed clearly stated there would be no video taken of this performance. Oh my. I've never heard of like someone having to bring up contracts so many times. Like, are these people just signing documents without actually reading them? The bride immediately turned into a bridezilla and began to argue with the agent, telling her to butt out and the wedding was over and there was nothing she could do about it. I don't know about that. So wait, you got paid by your bully and now you get to sue your bully? Bestie, I love this for you. While I was ready to leave and go home, I started to pack my things up even slower because I didn't want to miss anything. This argument went on for a good 5 minutes, but finally the bride gave in, pulled her cell phone out of her bra, and deleted the video. The agent then told her to make sure she deleted the video out of her delete folder, and she was not leaving until she saw her do it. The bride gave in, showed her phone to the agent, and I guess all was good from there. The soloist and I walked out together, and as we were walking out, I waved goodbye to the bride, and she actually had the nerve to flip us both off. Oh dear. At that point, the visiting pastor said, "I'm done." He looked at the groom and said, "Please know that I will be praying for you." And he walked out. I went home with a good story to tell, but it doesn't end there. The next week at our staff meeting, we were telling the pastor all about the nightmare wedding. He'd already heard about it from his pastor friend, but said he really thought we were pulling a big joke on him. That was until a few days later when the mother of the bride came in demanding that the church refund all of the ceremony fees, sanctuary rental, housekeeping, security, organist, coordinator, and pastor fees, because we had been such unprofessional assholes throughout the entire weekend of the wedding. Sorry, can I get a refund just for you ruining my day? Imagine if you could do that. The pastor told her that would not be happening and that from his understanding, the a-holes were her and her daughter. She left after telling him we would be hearing from her attorney. Fast forward 6 months, the pastor called me and the wedding coordinator into his office one afternoon. He shared that the bride's father had come in that morning, wanting to apologize for the entire show of a wedding and how embarrassed he was about everything and how it played out. He told the pastor that he wanted to stand up and shut the whole thing down after the first meltdown in the rehearsal, but he knew that there would be hell to pay if he didn't play along. He then proceeded to share that the bride and groom had already separated. Big surprise!
Oh, there's a big surprise!
My flabbers are gasted! Who could have predicted that? You know, apparently, if you are an awful person to other people, they don't want to be in your life. Shocker. Wow. The groom, who is apparently a very nice young man, woke up and realized he made a huge mistake. He had married a Karen. He said that his daughter returned home one day to find that he packed his bags and left. He then told the pastor that he'd also filed for divorce from his wife. Oh goody. Oh, I love that for him. Oh goody, these nice men. Get far and far, far away. I can't believe he came to apologize to the church on their behalf. He told the pastor not to worry about hearing from her attorney for a refund for the wedding fees because not a day goes by that she doesn't threaten someone with the wrath of her attorney, who does not exist.
You'll be hearing from our lawyer.
He said that if we ever did hear from an attorney to let him know, and he would gladly speak up on behalf of the church and refusing to refund the money. He said that we deserve 10 times that amount for what we were forced to deal with, period. That's what's up. That's what's up. A year later, we haven't heard from a lawyer and not another word from the mother of the bride. The bride's father, however, is in church almost every Sunday. He's as nice and normal a man you would ever want to meet. Since divorcing his wife, he's not been in contact with his daughter. He started to date a lovely woman he met at the church. Since he left his wife, he looks about 10 years younger. Right, because stress plays a role in that, guys. And he appears to be living his best life. Perhaps in the near future, I will have the opportunity to play for his wedding. I can't help but wonder if his ex-wife might get a wind of a wedding and show up to create a scene. If that day ever happens, I'll be sure to return with a follow-up. Oh my lord. That was a lot. That was a lot. There was a lot happening there. We have an update. What did the wedding coordinator tell you that happened at the rehearsal after you left? The wedding hostess said it was an all-out standing match between the mother of the bride, the mother of the groom, and the bride. It all centered around Grandma coming down the aisle in her wheelchair. After 10 minutes or so, the groom's dad and bride's dad got involved and shut the entire thing down. Oh my goodness. That's when Grandma spoke up and told the bride and groom she was gifting them a down payment on a house as their wedding gift. But no wheelchair, no house. Wow. You had to bait him with a house, Grandma? What happened to the house? I guess the tone of the bride quickly changed. My goodness, how embarrassing. I forgot that there was a rehearsal dinner being held at the church immediately following the rehearsal. I guess most do if the groom's family were so disgusted by what they had just witnessed that they skipped out and went home. I wish I stuck around a little longer. I would have run down to the kitchen and made popcorn and come back to the sanctuary for the show. Honestly, that's a good way of thinking about it, you know? Because, like, I take everything a little seriously, especially when it comes to drama and, like, people that I know. But you gotta really look at it like it's just one big show. Just bring your popcorn, have a little laugh about it. Because at the end of the day, it's not happening to you.